My psycho landlord refuses to change the fire alarms in his property that I'm renting from him, claiming that it's our responsibility and not his. But after trying to explain to him that no, legally he is responsible for this, he tried to call what he thought was our bluff by calling the fire marshal, resulting in my crazy landlord getting scared straight in a way that I can only imagine. Here's how it all went down. Okay, so this happened a few years ago in my last apartment. My roommate and I were living in a basement place with upstairs neighbors, and the owner decided he wanted to sell. The upstairs neighbors ended up buying it and became our new landlords. And trust me when I say this, they were awful at it. I could fill a whole post with the amount of stuff they tried to get away with, but we're here to talk about one particular instance that really stood out. But suffice to say, they had no idea that the landlords had responsibilities, and they simply saw us tenants as a source of income that should be ever growing, hence our rent suddenly spiking and why we left. But there's one time where they literally maliciously complianced themselves. You see, they had a habit of trying to push stuff on us that was blatantly illegal. Their first contract, for example, said, among other things, that they had the right to enter the apartment at any time that they wanted to and could go through our stuff if they wished to because we were living in their property. Well, I pointed out that this was highly illegal and they grew very upset, saying, well, we'll see about that. And this clause later suddenly became the real one before we signed. One day, however, our lone fire alarm system suddenly stopped working. As dutiful tenants, we reached out and we said, hey, the fire alarm stopped working. And you know what? Their response was rather predictable. They said to us, so what? I replied by saying, well, we need to have a working fire alarm, and it's the landlord's duty to provide working fire alarms. They then literally said, well, no, it's not. If you want one, you need to get one. But I reminded them and said, no, the law says otherwise. And here's where they maliciously complianced themselves, which is possibly because they were getting tired of being corrected, and they ended up getting really snooty with this one. We got a very sarcastic response of them saying, oh, it does it? Well, we'll just see what the fire marshals have to say about that. Well, me and my roommate, upon receiving this message, both of us just burst out laughing. But they were serious. They thought they were going to contact the fire marshal, he was going to sign with them, and then they could come down on us really hard. But when we said, okay, yeah, go ahead and do that, I honestly wonder what their expressions were when they started this process. However, the next morning, there was frantic knocking at the door. When I open up, there's the landlord and his family, looking very concerned, with a bag of brand new fire alarms with one for each room and even 2 spares just in case. He then begs to be let in outside of the 24-hour notice and says it's an emergency. He looks at us and says, we have to put up the alarms right now. Well, trying not to laugh, we let him in, and they hurriedly put one in every single room, apologizing profusely for the delay and telling us that if we need anything, don't hesitate to ask. Now, I really don't know how the meeting with the fire marshal went, or if they got him or someone else at their office, but their attitude painted a pretty clear picture of the ultimate result, because they literally burnt themselves thinking that they would call our bluff, resulting in probably one of the most panicked situations they've ever been in their entire life. Okay, this is one of the worst landlord situations I've heard of in a long time. Imagine being so corrupt that you're like, oh, you want fire alarms? That's your problem, not ours. If you want one, you've got to get one. It's like, dude, what are you doing? You really don't care about the people renting from you, do you? Like, holy crap, why are people like this, dude? You would think there would be some kind of like, oh, I don't know, hey, you're staying at my place, so I'm going to take care of you, kind of like mentality. Or at least some semblance of mutual respect between landlord and tenant. Like, oh my gosh. Like, the original poster didn't do anything wrong. They're just like, hey, the fire alarms aren't working. I kind of want to live and not die. Can you get some for me? That'd be great. And you know for a fact they suck as people, and they've definitely never been a landlord before, because anyone in their right mind would be like, oh my gosh, the fire alarm's not working? The thing that keeps me from being sued is not working? Oh boy, let me fix that real quick. So I love the way the original poster handled this. They literally sat back and was like, okay, let's see how this plays out, because this landlord is super corrupt, and the fact that they tried this on you, in my opinion, is absolutely insane. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. Am I the jerk for taking my boyfriend to a birthday dinner at a restaurant that is literally across the street from my sister's apartment? Because after she found out that we didn't invite her, she freaked out on me just like she does any other time I do something without her. And at this point, I'm not sure if I made a mistake and I just don't know what to do. Here's how it all went down. Okay, so my sister and I live in neighborhoods that are about 15 minutes apart. Hers has way more options for restaurants and has a really cute movie theater. Ever since she's moved in, which was after I moved into my neighborhood, she has said that I shouldn't go over to her neighborhood to do anything without her. For example, like if I went to the movies there with my boyfriend. She thinks I should pick a different movie theater even if it's more crowded or further away. Now, I really try to be inclusive of her and balance time and activities with her versus with my boyfriend, or if all of us are out together. I mean, there was even a really cute wine bar by her that I avoided taking my boyfriend to, even though I knew he would love it, simply because I knew my sister would be super upset if I went there first without her. Anyways, we haven't seen eye to eye on this issue, and now she's mad because last night, my boyfriend got off of work early, and his sister had sent me money asking me to take him out and to treat the both of us to dinner for his birthday. For reference, she lives in another state, so she couldn't do so herself in person. It was very last minute, and my boyfriend wanted spicy food, so he suggested a Thai food place right next to my sister's apartment. Now, I knew that she would be upset if we went and didn't tell her, especially if she walked by and saw us there. So I texted her to give her a heads up that we'd be in the area, but I still didn't invite her. I did say though that we could stop by afterwards and say hi, or maybe say hi when she went to take her dogs out for their nightly walk. Well, she just ignored my messages for hours, and then later that night, she said that she hopes we had fun, but according to her, she said it sucks that you went right to a restaurant that is literally right across the street from my apartment, all without me. So seriously, with all things considered, am I the jerk in this situation? Because right now I honestly don't know what to do. Okay, no, you are not the jerk here. Your sister can't gatekeep the entire neighborhood that she lives in. Like, why on earth is she acting like that? That's so stupid. Because in my opinion, this is some crazy behavior that absolutely should not be validated. So no, you're definitely not the jerk, and in my opinion, I would absolutely be going anywhere I want, even if it's in her neighborhood. Because she literally has no say in what you can or cannot do. An entitled Karen driving a Tesla literally thought she could drive down the wrong side of the street and block the bike path that I was clearly traveling on. So I decided to get some petty revenge by blocking her path and making her back up, which honestly really blew my mind because this entire situation was so unnecessary. Here's how it all went down. Okay, so as I'm coming up to an intersection and turn right in my fairly large cargo bike, I'm met by the front of a Tesla who thought that one way for cars also applied for bicycles. She must have been in a hurry because she tried to get all the way up to the line despite a group of about 5 cyclists waiting for the green light in front of her. Unfortunately for her, this particular street is a bicycle street with cars being allowed to drive in only one direction. She's left barely enough room between her car and the sidewalk for a normal bike to even shimmy past, but my cargo bike is about a meter wide. So anyways, I stop right in front of her and I tell her to get out of my way. She somehow feels entitled enough to have the audacity to tell me to back up, but I tell her to kick rocks and back up and to stay in her own lane. Finally, she backs up about a meter, not enough to actually drive around me, so I just move my bike forward and I tell her to go back to her own lane. And yes, this is where I wish I'd remembered my favorite insult to drivers, asking if they'd gotten their driver's license at Legoland. Finally, she gives up and backs up enough that I don't have to move around her. She gives me the finger, which I happily reciprocated, and then I go about my day. And while I didn't look back, I hope that I managed to time it in such a way so that she would be stuck at a red light again, because this entitled Karen absolutely deserved it. Okay, imagine being on the wrong side of the street and acting like this. Like, dude, you're clearly in the wrong and you absolutely need to get out of the way. And I'm not surprised that it's a Tesla owner that did this because holy crap, they've become that kind of car that act like this, and it's so weird. Like, what's going on right now? Please tell me that not all Tesla owners act like this when they're driving, because I've seen a lot of stories like this and this is kind of concerning. So yeah, I love the way the original poster handled this. I don't know if I would have the bravery to do that because I know for a fact I would be very nervous in this situation. My brother allowed his girlfriend to enter our house without warning me first, as she literally came out of nowhere and went into our bathroom to take a shower. And now as a result, I am very pissed off at my brother because I feel like this is a massive invasion of privacy and very inappropriate. And I'm honestly right now not sure what to do. Here's what's going on. To start things out, I rent a 2-bedroom house with my brother. And this all started when he allowed a girl who I'd never met at the time spend the night. And this girl would later become his girlfriend. He went to work the next day and left her in his room by himself, all the way until she eventually woke up and left on her own. He did call me to let me know, and I didn't think it was much of a problem. I am a single guy and I know what it's like. But then he started doing it more and more often. And at the time, I was kind of assuming like, okay, this is his girlfriend or something like that. Now this wouldn't really bother me as much because literally I wouldn't see her. She would just wake up and walk out, and I would know that she was there because I would see her car. But today I woke up and I honestly thought I was home alone. I was listening to music, I was dancing around the house, and then she suddenly walks in without warning and goes straight to his room without saying anything. Then she goes in our restroom and takes a shower. It was super uncomfortable and really pissed me off. I sent him a text immediately and I told him that I didn't like that crap. He said that it was a one-time thing because her car was at the dealership nearby and she apparently needed to take a shower before going to work. She stayed for about 2 hours, but after she left, I wasn't as mad anymore before, and I felt a little bit guilty. I've had a pretty solid relationship with my brother so far, and I'm just hoping I didn't overreact since I am single, and I may not understand what it's like to need a place to spend time with your girlfriend. So seriously, am I being petty here, or was this like a good reason to complain? Because right now I'm not sure if I'm in the wrong. Okay, maybe I have like a polarizing opinion here, but no, I don't think you overreacted. I don't really care who you are. If you're walking into my house, you better live there. Because if you don't, this is an absolutely big red flag. She doesn't live there, she doesn't rent from you guys. She is literally just your brother's girlfriend. So for her to walk in and be like, oh, don't worry, I'm just gonna use the shower. Like, that seems really inappropriate in my opinion and just completely over the line. It's not like she's gotten to know you or done anything like that. It's not like you guys hang out all the time, so it's like, oh, that's such and such. They're totally fine. They can come in. Like, no, this is super uncomfortable and not okay in my opinion. Now, I will say it kind of seems like your brother's like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. This is a one-time thing. And hopefully there's some kind of like conversation that could be happening because of this situation. But if not, then this is like really messed up and super toxic in my opinion. So no, I don't think you overreacted because this is really an invasion of privacy that you do not deserve, especially if she's gonna walk in unannounced and take a shower. Like, I think that's really weird and completely uncalled for. Am I the jerk for walking out of my sister's wedding reception after she literally thanked everybody else in her wedding party except for me? Because despite the fact that I literally did everything for her leading up to this event, she still decided to be disrespectful to me and even laugh at someone who said I'm her unpaid wedding planner. And as a result, this has put me in a really weird situation with my family and I just don't know what to do. Here's what's happening. Okay, so my sister just got married last weekend. I was not only a bridesmaid, but also I spent months helping her plan, literally running errands for her, putting deposits down when she was way too busy to do it herself, even covering a couple of her bills when she went over budget. Well, fast forward and the actual wedding day comes along, and during the reception, she gives a big thank you speech. She says, I want to thank everyone who made this day possible. She names her husband, her parents, their friends, even a distant cousin who showed up the week before to fold the napkins. But not once during her speech did she ever mention me. I let it go until later when someone joked about how I was basically her unpaid wedding planner. My sister then laughed and said, well, yeah, but that's what sisters are for. At that point, I felt humiliated and completely unappreciated. So I quietly grabbed my stuff and I left before dessert was even served. And now my family's blowing up my phone, saying that I ruined her night and made it all about me. And my sister is even saying that I'm jealous and petty. I feel like I was treated like free labor and then dismissed like I didn't matter. So am I the jerk for walking out of her reception? Because right now I just don't know what to do. Okay, honestly, with all things considered, no, you're not the jerk. This was such a rude thing for her to do, and in my opinion, this better be the final straw. Like, if she ever needs help with anything in the future, like a baby shower or like any kind of celebration, she better not ask you for anything and you better not agree to it. Because you know for a fact she's not going to thank you and she's not going to appreciate the hard work you put in. Because let's look at the facts for a second. You did all this work for her, and then when she's doing this big thank you speech, she doesn't even mention you. And she even later tries to justify it by being like, oh yeah, that's my sister, that doesn't count. Like, that's basically what she was saying. So no, with all things considered, you're definitely not the jerk. Her attitude and the way she treated you was completely unfair. And if I was in your shoes, I absolutely would have walked out as well. Because this is completely unacceptable. I'm planning on moving in with my long distance boyfriend, but my parents are super against it. And they're now acting like I'm ruining my life. And at this point, I just don't know what to do. Here's what's going on. Okay, so as the title suggests, I'm planning on moving in with my boyfriend of 2 years next month, who also lives a 5-hour drive away. We've been planning, budgeting, communicating for the past couple of months, and last week I thought was the right time to let my parents know. I knew it'd be bad and I knew there would be pushback, but I'm not sure if I can handle it anymore. My parents rely on me like crazy ever since I was a kid. My siblings and I make jokes that I raised them and they have their personalities because of me. I work full-time and I'm a full-time student, but I still take care of our family dogs. I go to the supermarket for my mom weekly, and I'm doing chores all throughout the week. Now, I don't mind because I do live rent-free, but I am at a point where I have saved enough money that I can move out. My boyfriend also wasn't allowed to stay with us when he comes visit until last month, and when he comes, he's only allowed to stay in our garage, which is like my dad's man cave that has a bunch of couches. But the couches are so uncomfortable to sleep on that I feel horrible, and there's no bathroom in there, so he has to use the bathroom in the shed at night, which is really ridiculous. And on top of that, anytime I go to visit him, it's always a huge issue, and I cannot go for more than 2 days because I'm not allowed to treat the house like it's a hotel. And apparently it's disrespectful that their daughter is visiting her boyfriend because they think it's his job to do the visiting. My parents are super against living together before marriage, and they've made that known with me and all of my siblings. Well, when I told my parents, my mom sobbed, saying that she can't believe she raised me not to respect and value myself enough to at least get engaged before moving in together. They think we're rushing into things and making a stupid, rash decision that we will regret regret. I tried explaining to them that we will get married once we get a feel for how we live together, but right now just isn't the time. Now they're saying that we should compromise, and my boyfriend should buy me a cheap ring and can get me a nicer one later on. But it's like, why would we get engaged just to please them? Like, that's just so ridiculous. Then they complained that they haven't even met his parents yet, which is totally valid. So to make it right, they met this weekend, and they said it went well and they like his family, so I thought we were going on the right track. But still, it isn't enough. Now, yesterday, my mom cried and said to me that she cannot believe I have such little respect for myself to live with my boyfriend before we're engaged. I tried explaining that I'm ready to move out and I need my space and independence, and I need to focus on school, and I'm also ready to get a good job. But nothing I say is good enough. Every day it has been a new argument and I'm just exhausted. My dad said that I need to just get engaged and keep my mom happy, because if not, I cannot count on them anymore. It's just so upsetting because I love my parents, but I'm tired of living my life to please them. What should I do? Okay, honestly, your parents need to understand that you literally are an adult and you could do whatever you want. Like, for reference, the original poster is 23 years old and they have every right to like move out if they want to. It's also super weird that these people are like, oh, you need to compromise and get engaged first. But it's like, no, the original poster doesn't have to do that. They're an adult and they can make their own decisions if they want to. Like, what's going on right now? So yeah, I think your parents are overstepping and they're really getting in the way of something that literally is none of their business. And chances are they don't want you to move out because you do everything around the house, which means they would have to step up and actually do something for once instead of relying on you to get it done. And that, in my opinion, is probably the real reason they want you sticking around. Am I the jerk for telling my mother-in-law that she is no longer allowed to visit us after she literally went through our trash without our permission? Because right now my wife is pissed off at me as she's caught in the middle of this, saying that her mom was just overly involved and that she really does care about us. But right now I'm pissed off and I refuse to apologize. Here's what's going on. Okay, so my mother-in-law has always been a lot. She means well, but she has no sense of boundaries. She lives 10 minutes away and used to stop by unannounced constantly until my wife and I put our foot down. The final straw, though, happened last week. We have been trying to start a family and have been going through fertility treatments as a result of that. It's been an emotional and private journey. We had a negative result from our last round, which was completely devastating. I cleaned out the bathroom cabinet where we kept the tests and some other medical supplies and threw it all in the kitchen trash before taking the bag out to the curb. Well, the next day, my mother-in-law showed up at our door crying. She held up the used pregnancy test and a box of fertility drugs from the trash and demanded to know why we didn't tell her we were trying, why it failed, and what was wrong with us. When I saw this, I was furious. I told her that going through our trash was a massive violation of privacy and that our medical journey was none of her business. She said she was just helping take out the trash and couldn't help but notice. I then lost my temper and I told her that she was no longer welcome at our home until she could learn to respect basic boundaries. And now, as a result of that, my wife is caught in the middle. She agrees her mom was wrong but thinks my reaction was too harsh and that I should apologize for yelling. She says her mom is just overly involved because she cares, but I refuse to apologize. So am I the jerk in this situation? Because right now I just don't know what to do and I'm still really pissed off. Dude, there's no way in the world this is even justifiable. Like, what is going on right now? You really mean to tell me that the original poster's wife is justifying these actions? Like, dude, what are you talking about? She dug through your trash, man. Like, what is going on right now? And who knows how long she's been doing that? Like, I simply can't imagine someone doing that out of nowhere unless they've been doing that already. And plus, you have to go to a really weird place to start digging through someone's garbage just to try and find some kind of secrets on them. Like, that is so weird and intrusive. So no, you did the right thing by banning her from your house, and honestly, the fact that your wife is justifying this is so dumb, because what your mother-in-law did is completely unacceptable. My girlfriend is demanding that I help pay for her Uber rides to work every single month. But even though the bus would be a much cheaper option, she's still demanding that I spend the hundreds of dollars every single month just so that she can take an Uber ride instead of going on the bus. And at this point, I just don't know what to do. Here's what's going on. Okay, so I'm having an issue with my girlfriend and I really need some advice. And for context, we've been dating for about 11 months. Last Wednesday, she started a new job that is about 25 minutes away from her house. However, she does not have a car and I work Monday through Friday, so I'm not able to take her even if I wanted to. But with that in mind, I offered to pay for her Ubers. However, I was not aware what the cost would really be. Yesterday, I checked my bank account and I saw that in 1 week, I had spent $340 on Uber rides. I could not believe it. I mean, that is insane. So last night, I had a conversation regarding this with her. I told her that I was looking over my spending and I saw that I had spent $340 on Ubers. I told her that I can't do that because I'm literally just throwing money into the trash. I also have a car to pay for and car insurance along with other expenses. If I paid for her Ubers, it would nearly be over $1,000 a month. She then asked me if we could split it, but I did the math and it would still be around $320 a month for me. So I told her that is not smart for me or for her to be throwing our money away like that. I then told her that the best option would be for her to take the bus. A bus pass is literally $30 a month, and I checked the route that she would take, and she would only have to take one bus. It would take an hour for her to get to her work, which means she would have to wake up earlier, but sometimes sacrifices have to be made. She said that would not be an option because she knows she would not wake up on time. She feels like she would be getting no sleep since she'd have to wake up earlier. But I told her that is an option and there's always an option available. It's just a matter of wanting to actually do it or not. In the end, she said she does not want to take the bus for those reasons. But what really bothered me was when she said, "Oh, well, just don't help me then. I will figure it out on my own." And she said it in a tone that made me feel really guilty for not wanting to help with her Uber rides. And you know what? As her boyfriend, I do feel guilty, but I also don't want to be throwing my money away like that. I feel like whatever I decide to do, whether to help her or not, I just come out losing. What should I do? Holy crap, your girlfriend is immature. Is she seriously going to be like, "I'm not riding the bus for $30 a month. I would rather spend hundreds of dollars on an Uber ride every month, thank you very much." Like, my God, what are we doing right now? It is so stupid that she wants to act like that. That is such a waste of money. And I've got to be honest, the fact that she only has to take one bus to get to work is honestly like a godsend. On top of that, it's only $30 a month. She's going to be saving all the money she would be blowing on Uber rides to then try and invest in a car that she can drive. And I've got to be honest, I only ever use Uber when it's like, oh man, I'm desperate and I'm stuck at the airport. I guess I'll use Uber and pray that it's not some weirdo. Like, that's the only time I'm ever using Uber. Otherwise, it's just too expensive. Like, holy crap, over $1,000 in a month just for her to get to work? Like, I'm sorry, I'm not paying for that. So truly, I don't think you're in the wrong, and I think your girlfriend is being completely unreasonable here, because what she's demanding and making you feel guilty about is completely unnecessary. An entitled Karen demands to be seen at a hospital before a newborn baby. I gave birth to my daughter on Tuesday. Then we were released on Thursday. On Thursday, we saw our pediatrician after being released from the hospital. It comes to find out that some of our daughter's blood work comes back as a little abnormal. She was born at 37 weeks, so she's technically early to the doctors. So they're being precautious and checking her levels and don't want to get any dangerous levels. Since Thursday, we've had to go to the pediatrician and the hospital on the weekend, since doctors' offices are closed, to get her blood drawn to keep checking and see if she's okay. On Saturday, we had a doctor's order prescription to have blood drawn at the lab, but we had to be taken to and wait at the ER instead. There were 3 or 4 people sitting in the ER when we arrived. We got checked in, my fiance and I sit down, and we waited to be registered. The ER desk worker recognized us from the other day, I guess from when I was in the hospital giving birth, and asked us about our daughter. They asked how she is, how many days she is, and why she's here, etc. I'd also like to point out my daughter is extremely quiet for a newborn as well. Literally never made a peep in the waiting room. The registration woman comes out with that rolling chart not even 2 minutes later, walks over to us and begins the process of checking us in. That's when an old entitled Karen pipes up and starts shouting, "I've been waiting here 2 hours. Check me in first." For one, that was completely false due to how quickly the woman came out to us and how quiet the ER currently was. For two, she literally cut the woman off as she's asking us questions, which is rude regardless. Don't get me wrong, I can understand it being annoying to have someone else get attention before you when you were the first one there, but there are nicer and politer ways of going about talking about this. The registration woman gave the woman a dirty look and then gave me a sympathetic look. My daughter wasn't fussy or anything, so I had no problem waiting, and so I gave her a small nod as if to say, I understand. That's when the woman began checking in the Karen. Only Karen didn't speak to the woman. She only shoved her paperwork into the woman's hands and sat quietly again. Once the registration woman was done dealing with the entitled Karen and seeing that there wasn't anything else she needed to get from her, she went back, thanked both me and my husband, as well as the Karen, and me and my husband thanked her out of politeness. The Karen, however, glared over at the worker as well as us. After about 15 to 20 minutes, Karen told, not asked mind you, told a worker to tell the ER receptionist she's been waiting 2 hours and to call the lab technicians right away. The ER receptionist gets the message from the passing worker, gives Karen a look, and proceeds to call or page the lab again while making a slightly annoyed sound. After a moment, the receptionist turned to my fiance and I, apologizing to us, saying that the technician would be down in a moment and that on Saturdays they only have one blood technician. A few minutes later, the very lovely technician came down and immediately came to us, helping us gather our stuff out of kindness. The receptionist made some sort of comment about the Karen and how how they are also getting lab work done. To which the tech said, "Ahaha, okay," making that kind of sound. The feeling I got was the receptionist told the tech on the phone about the Karen causing issues and that an infant was waiting. The technician said, "Well, good, you can follow us." My fiance and I took an extra second to get the car seat picked up, got the diaper bags and all of our other stuff. So Karen had a moment to stand with the tech who was complimenting us on our daughter, to which Karen said nicely but smugly, "Yeah, what a cute baby." We took a short walk to the lab area. Karen sped past us, talking to the tech about how she doesn't even understand why she's here and that she could be doing other things on a Saturday, and that she's been waiting for 2 hours, going on and on, while the tech is nicely smiling and agreeing and apologizing she's the only blood technician on the weekends. We approach the room, to which the tech turns, smiles smugly, and tells the Karen, "Ma'am, you can have a seat right here. The rest of you can come right inside." The Karen looked stunned and said, "What?" The technician says, "Yes, ma'am, the seats are right here. We'll be done in just a few minutes." The Karen huffed and puffed and gave my 4-year-old baby a look as if it's her fault and was just in an overall sour mood after that. Again, my daughter hasn't made a sound and was perfectly fine. This entitled Karen easily could have gone before us. I mean, both of us are here for blood to be drawn. But it looks like the Karen had to wait even longer because of her terrible attitude towards the staff. As someone who used to work in the medical field, I can say that this is super common. The number of times where I've dealt with entitled Karens trying to check them in or check their insurance or try and collect a copay or even just saying hi or existing in the same room as them is too many to count. I don't know what it is, but the medical world just seems to attract the absolute worst of society. So unfortunately, I'm not totally surprised that some entitled Karen wanted to go ahead of an infant just so they could try and spend their Saturday doing whatever else they want to do. And chances are their Saturday was probably spent in some kind of supermarket yelling at a teenager who's just trying to make ends meet and bag some groceries. Overall, I can't stand Karens like this. They have no business acting like this and being so entitled, and it is a beautiful, subtle case of karma to watch her have to sit there and get her blood drawn after the other people who were so nice. My boyfriend keeps accusing me of supposedly being suspicious. Long story short, my boyfriend and the father of my child keeps insinuating that I'm hiding something from him. It's driving me nuts because he's the father of my child, and I would never do anything to damage our little family. I've deleted social media to try and get him to stop, but it doesn't work. I downloaded it back and he's only gotten worse. I just can't win. He has no trust in me and it's frustrating, only for the fact that he wasn't loyal at the beginning of our relationship, which I honestly didn't find out until I got pregnant. And I've tried my best to give him trust back, but he doesn't trust me at all. He thinks I'm out for revenge or something. I don't know what to do anymore. I've never hurt him before, and it feels really terrible to be accused for something you'd never do or even think of doing. He essentially accuses me of cheating because when he comes around, I put my phone down. I only put it down because I want to give him all of my attention. I do it out of respect. I honestly don't know what to do. If you were in my shoes, what would you do in a situation like this? I don't want to jump to conclusions, but personally, it kind of sounds like the boyfriend is the one that's actually being suspicious, and they're just projecting that suspicion onto you to try and justify getting out of the relationship or something. You clearly are not cheating. You're clearly not doing anything wrong, and putting your phone down when your boyfriend or girlfriend comes into the room is not grounds for you to be like cheating or going behind their back. That's honestly ridiculous. Like, it literally sounds like the suspicion that he has towards you is just coming out of nowhere. It makes me want to question, like, is he the one that's cheating and going behind your back? Because that's exactly how some cheaters do act. It's a classic case where the cheater is going behind their partner's back and then they try and say, "Oh no, but you're the one that's actually cheating," even though that's not at all true. It's just classic projection. I really hope that's not the case because this is the father of your child, but from the looks of it, just from the outside looking in, I think he may be doing something that you're not aware of. In my opinion, you probably need to sit down with him and have an honest talk about your future together, because nobody should live their life thinking that their partner can't trust them, especially when they haven't done anything wrong. My girlfriend's mother is living with us, and she is destroying my relationship with my girlfriend and draining me financially. My girlfriend's mother has been living with us for 9 months now, with no end in sight, with plans for her father to potentially live with us too. My girlfriend is 42 and I am 31, and we have been together for 5 years now. We have a 5-year-old daughter together. Her parents are citizens of a South American country. They're unemployed, receive very little income, do not have a U.S. residency or citizenship, have multiple debts, pets, and their only asset is their home. Her mother is having multiple health issues that would go unresolved in her country, including bone-on-bone arthritis in her hip and knee, and she has glaucoma. She has trouble walking and moving in general, and possibly will lose her vision if glaucoma doesn't get resolved. Her father is in loads of debt and lives day to day in the South American country that they're from. They seem like nice enough people, but there is a language barrier that does not allow me to communicate with them. Her mother lives in an ADU in our house, which has a market value of about $1,000 a month, plus the additional food, utilities, etc. In addition, my girlfriend sends money to her father to help him stay above water. I would estimate we spend at least $1,500 up to $2,000 a month subsidizing her parents' living expenses with no end in sight. My girlfriend also has to do cleaning, do laundry, drive her to the doctor's appointments, and then some. We do not make a ton of money. I make $70,000 for my primary job and work on weekends to make an extra $15,000 to $20,000. She works a very flexible job that makes $35,000. I would like to move to a better school district for our daughter and closer to work and my family. However, due to her parents, it does not look like that's possible. I'm going crazy here as her parents have become my responsibility and it's affecting our lifestyle. I've thought about breaking up with her, but she is truly a great person and she's a fantastic mother. It's just a shame that her parents have made poor financial decisions. We've thought about trying to get her parents to become US citizens, and we are in the process with her mother, but the public charge rule prevents them from getting most public benefits. Her parents also do not receive any public benefits in their home country. Needless to say, the situation is putting a huge strain on our relationship. I'm hoping someone can provide some help or suggestions here, as I don't want my girlfriend's parents living with us anymore, and I don't want to have to financially support them all the time. This is really not something I signed up for. I thought her parents were financially stable and had adequate access to medical care. I knew that they would come by to visit, but my understanding was that they would pay their own way. Clearly, that is not the case. What do I do? I think the first thing to do would be probably talking to like an immigration lawyer about citizenship or like permanent residency. It might not be like impossible to get that going, but something has to be done. I really do agree with the original poster here, and that it's not fair for them to be expected to take care of his girlfriend's parents. It seems like this is going to be a long-term situation and that they have kind of no choice in the matter. And the fact that they have a child together is already really hard. Children are really expensive and hard to take care of. And I know for a fact that his girlfriend loves her parents and wants them to be healthy and happy, but if that replaces your own needs and your family's needs, you might need to reevaluate how you can actually help them. But maybe, just maybe, if they were able to become US citizens, they might be able to access public benefits that could help them in these very types of situations. I'm not like super educated on this, so I don't know the specifics, but maybe there is an option for this? I'm not really sure. Either way, hopefully this gets worked out, and hopefully you find some kind of solution that helps you have some normalcy in your life. My insecurities are ruining my relationship with my girlfriend. I met my girlfriend Lily nearly 4 years ago. She is the assistant director at our local animal shelter and approached me about being one of the sponsors for the shelter's annual fun run. I wrote a check, showed up for the event, she asked me to dinner, and the rest is history. Lily is the most compassionate, kind, beautiful person I've ever met. She makes such an effort for every single person in her life. For example, last week she put balloons on our mailbox for the mail lady's birthday just to celebrate. I'm sitting here thinking of all the things that I love about her, and I realize I have to cut it off because this post will be too long. On top of all of that, Lily inherited a great deal of money from her late grandparents and has a trust fund from her father, so she is financially set for life. I know I have a tendency to be self-deprecating. I'm a bigger guy, pretty ordinary looking, make okay money, and for the life of me, I don't know what this beautiful, younger woman sees when she looks at me. Lily always gets upset when I make these disparaging comments. Her go-to line is, "Don't talk about the man I love like that." I've tried to stop, but it all just seems to feed into this awareness that this woman is so out of my league. Last night, we went to dinner with friends. One of the couples brought their 6-month-old baby, and Lily was absolutely obsessed. At one point, she looks to me with this sweet smile and says, "I want one." I, not missing a beat, said, "Probably want to wait for your next boyfriend who's prettier than me." I watched her face crumple. She cried the whole way home. She thinks I don't want a family with her. She thinks there is something wrong with her. I've tried to explain, but nothing comes out right. I love her, and I can feel her closing off to me emotionally. She left this morning to stay with her sister, to try and take some space. I'm panicking. Please help. What do I do? It sounds like you're ruining a really good situation, and you need to fix this as soon as possible. You need to sit her down and come 100% clean about your own insecurities, and then go work on those said insecurities. It sounds like you have an amazing girlfriend who wants to be more than just a girlfriend in your future. So don't mess this up. Like, this is a golden opportunity for you. Like, it sounds like this is so much more a you problem than a her problem, and she's taking it out on herself because she thinks that this is something that she did, but it's in reality just your own self-esteem issues. Hypothetically speaking, let's pretend like the roles were reversed. How would you feel if she said something similar to you like that? The universe is legitimately giving you a gift here, and it looks like you're just throwing it in the garbage. Fix the situation, grovel at her feet, whatever it takes, but don't you dare let her pass you by, because she loves you, and you obviously love her. My parents don't want to talk to me anymore because I'm taking too long to become a doctor. I'm 31 years old, and I've always been an overachiever, and I got into medical school in Europe at a young age and did really well in school. My parents paid for medical school entirely. At this time, my relationship with my parents was perfect. When I moved back with my parents after graduating, I needed some time to relax and reflect. Medical school was very tough on me, and I was mentally exhausted. I got diagnosed with an anxiety disorder that my parents don't know about. Now, I've been out of school about 5 years. I moved out, got my own place, and I'm with my partner. And I've been working on getting a job here in the United States. The entire process is very long and grueling because of all the exams there have to be taken. These exams are very difficult, require a lot of time, and they are mentally taxing. I've been studying, but it has been very hard for me because of my anxiety. My parents are continuously disappointed in me. I had to postpone my test for what feels like the 10th time now because I am simply not ready. They said that I have disappointed them, wasted all the opportunities they gave me, and they no longer want to speak to me. I wish they could understand how hard this process is on me instead of focusing on how they feel. They constantly compare me to others who have completed their exams. I am trying. I haven't failed anything. I'm not dropping out of medicine, but they still want nothing to do with me. They're not doctors. They don't know how this journey feels. I wake up with anxiety every morning over this, and it's hard for me to concentrate on my studies when all of this is happening. What do I do? It is very disappointing that the parents who paid to get this person through medical school have suddenly turned on their kid because they're not getting it done fast enough. I mean, what does that even mean? The medical field is a very difficult field to get into. Honestly, everybody's life journey looks different, and there's no way you can compare one journey to another person's. Like, this legitimately is all on the parents for acting like absolute garbage people. They need to do better and support their child as they try their best to get their stuff done. There are so many checks and balances that go into being a doctor, it's not even funny. Like, there's literal continued education that you have to keep taking in order to prove, like, hey, guess what? I'm still a doctor. It's incredibly grueling, and it's not for the faint of heart. And even after all of that, think about the medical bills that they're going to have to pay off for the rest of their life. If they're lucky, they'll pay it off before they retire. Needless to say, becoming a doctor is not for the faint of heart. It's not for someone who just wants to walk in and have an easy career. They're honestly being hit from both sides, and I don't blame this original poster for feeling overwhelmed by the way that their parents are treating them. You would think that they would be the ones to be in your corner and supporting you no matter what. So honestly, they just need to keep going, keep working hard, and do their best. Because one day they're going to look back and they're going to be a fully fledged doctor, even if their parents don't want to come along and be supportive. My entitled roommate thinks he should pay less for his room because my boyfriend and I share a room. My roommate moved in May of last year. He paid 1 month of rent on time, then has either been late or hasn't paid me at all. He racked up close to $2,000 in debt to me, not once, but twice. I've been more than understanding because he was my friend and helped me when I tried to unalive myself last summer, and he had crashed his car and lost his job all in 1 week. But now I just feel like he's taking advantage of me because it's always excuse after excuse, and this has been going on for almost a year. I've tried multiple times to tell him that rent needs to be paid in full on the first, no exceptions. Yet he still continues to decide when it's most convenient for him to come up with more excuses that don't even make sense. For example, he won't pay till the 9th or later, or pays in chunks. I've told him multiple times that I can't do that anymore because when he doesn't pay in full, I have to cover for him, as I'm the one who sends the landlord the checks. And that if he can't afford it, then he needs to move out. I also paid my roommate's share of utilities since he moved in, despite me encouraging him multiple times to contribute. My boyfriend moved in December, which I spoke to my roommate about before my boyfriend moved in, and asked if he thought it was fair to continue to split rent per room and split utilities per person, which he agreed. Eventually, I was ready to kick my roommate out, but my boyfriend was worried about us covering the extra $750 a month while looking for a new roommate, so he wanted to try and make our situation work. There's tons of other problems I have with my roommate. For example, he brings over random girls from Bumble and leaves them unattended in my house. He doesn't clean up any of the common areas in the house. He makes a lot of noise. He doesn't pay me back or buy any of the things that he uses which are mine, like laundry, detergent, shampoo, etc. He doesn't properly take care of my dog and just lets him go outside all night with no supervision. Mind you, our land is not fenced in, and I have to clean up after him constantly. Dishes, coffee rings on the counter, hair and spit in the sink, trash, wearing his shoes in the house and leaving marks, etc. Honestly, the list goes on. My boyfriend and I have been on his case about rent and his share of the utilities. We haven't even bothered with him about all the other stuff for a while. Fast forward to yesterday. The roommate said he can't pay rent until the 9th of next month, and then said he wants to split rent 3 ways equally because my boyfriend and I store stuff in the sunroom, which would mean our roommate would only be paying $500 a month, which is low for a private room and a biggest 2-bedroom house in our area. I want to tell him absolutely not because we agreed to $750 when he moved in. I've also been more than kind covering his portion of the rent for months and months. Also, his ex lived with us for 2 months and I still paid $750 and all of the utilities. Should we be splitting the rent differently? Should I just kick him out at this point because he obviously does not want to improve the situation? What do I do here? Having a bad roommate can be the absolute worst situation, especially when they don't want to pay for rent. And this person takes the cake. If you want to rent from someone and you want to live inside the house that they're offering you, you have to pay rent. And at this point, honestly, you should probably just kick them out. It sounds like you've given them more than enough opportunities to prove themselves and pay their portion, but they don't want to do it. There's always an excuse, they're always behind, and honestly, it's time to find somebody else. It might cost you a little extra, but in the long run, you'll probably be much happier. A crazy Karen tries to stalk me at Walmart. Okay, so I have an EBT card, and thanks to the slow mail service, I got my card with about 4 months of money on it, which was a nice surprise. I was at the checkout, and this young lady was in front of me, and I noticed that she had baby food, formula, and other food for a small child. No snacks, just crackers and baby stuff. The cashier said to her, "I'm sorry, it says insufficient funds." The young lady tried again, but had the exact same result. Well, this woman looked as if her entire world was ending, so I stepped in and said, "Excuse me, can you just add my stuff on and I'll just pay for it?" The young lady looked surprised, and she protested, saying she couldn't pay me back. I just let her know that it was my pleasure to help her out, and I asked her if she had any food for herself. She just shook her head and said no, and that she'll just go down to the church and get some food if she really gets hungry. I asked her if she wanted to grab a few things for herself, like a frozen pizza or spaghetti egg rolls or cheese or crackers or bread or anything. Again, she said no, so I ended up putting my bread, my cheese, and some frozen dinners in her bag and wished her good luck. I mean, hey, I get it. The struggle is real. I finished up and went to replace my items. And as I was going, I noticed this woman who was making rude little huffs and puffs behind me as she begins to follow me. I get my items and go to the area where they can get lottery tickets and some other stuff. And as I'm paying, this idiotic, crazy Karen comes up to me and says, "You can add mine to hers, seeing that she's paying for strangers today." I just looked at the cashier who I'm friendly with and we both started laughing. I honestly didn't think she was serious. The Karen said, "What? You paid for her and you gave her some of your stuff. I'm a single mom. I'm not rich like you." Oh honey, you know nothing. I just shook my head, basically saying no. The Karen then got a little aggressive. "Hey, you, excuse me. Oh, you are so rude." I just look at her and say, "What?" "Okay, whatever, Karen." The Karen sputters, "Well," and at this point, I had just about had it and I said, "Well, what?" The Karen then chimes in and looks at the cashier and says, "She's paying for me. She's got my items." The cashier looked at her and said, "No, she doesn't. Have a good day, ma'am." And she hands me the receipt and I'm on my way. The Karen then says, "Why are you being so selfish? I need to feed my kids." And I look at her and say, "That sounds like a you problem, not a me problem." That's when she blows up. "Who do you think you are? I need help." I told her that I realize your problems are valid and I do sympathize with you, but I can't help you, so please, get away from me. Thankfully, the cashier chimed in and said, Miss, this is the 4th time in 2 days you've been asked to stop harassing customers. The Karen tried to protest and act like they're doing nothing wrong, and that's exactly when loss prevention stepped in. A large man with a badge approached her and told her to leave. I was walking out when I heard her starting to screech and yell about how she has no money and that she can't afford any of her groceries, and that she was expecting someone to try and help her, kind of like how I helped that one lady. But I got out of there and didn't have to have anything to do with that entitled Karen. This Karen is one of those people that try to capitalize on someone else's goodwill and use it against them. It's one of those freeloading con artists who will just try to bully you into doing what they want you to do. And it's really gross and disgusting. I find the contrast between her and the young lady earlier in the story to be really interesting. One is actually in need of help and assistance, whereas this other Karen is just trying to mooch off of other people's generosity. And I love the fact that this story has told her multiple times, you can't be here harassing customers and trying to beg people for money. Like, that's not okay. If she's really in need of assistance, it's time to go look for the resources that can provide you that assistance. Chasing down people in Walmart and trying to get them to give you money or pay for your groceries is not the solution you want to go with. In the end, it was a really good deed, and it's unfortunate that the Karen tried to ruin the moment. My long-term boyfriend wants me to get rid of my pet bunny rabbit. I recently just brought home a beautiful lop-eared bunny. I was asked if I wanted him from a family friend, as his owner sadly had passed away. He has a great personality, he's very friendly, cuddly, clever, and he is even toilet trained. My boyfriend has never been a fan of animals, especially animals like rabbits, guinea pigs, mice, etc. Anything small he's never been a fan of, as he's very strict on being clean and he believes they aren't. Admittedly, I didn't ask him directly if I could get the bunny. We do live together, but it's my apartment. I asked him how he'd feel if I did, and he said he didn't want a rabbit right now as it would be way too much work to take care of it. I thought I'd be able to win him over once he saw the bunny and agreed to look after him, and waited until my boyfriend finished work to show him the new addition to our home. And it actually led to a huge fight where he said I didn't listen to him and that he refused to come back here if the rabbit was still here, and asked when it'd be gone by. He was in such a rage he smashed a few of my mugs that were on the kitchen shelves and threw some of my possessions around, and was just being very threatening, which I thought was a complete overreaction. Fair enough if he really didn't want us owning a rabbit, and there was no changing his mind, but to react so aggressively I thought was completely over the top. In the heat of the argument, I told him that I'd rehome the bunny and that now I just feel awful because this bunny is just so sweet and loving and doesn't deserve to keep changing homes. I'm regretting saying yes to having him, but I also really wish I could keep him. Any advice on what I should do is really appreciated. I'm not thin-skinned, so give it to me straight. Do you really want me to give it to you straight? Because to be honest, the problem is not the bunny. The problem is your boyfriend acting like a psychopath and throwing mugs all over the place simply because you disobeyed his orders and brought home a bunny rabbit. Like, that's an extreme overreaction. It starts with a few mugs before he ends up putting holes in the drywall or trying to put his hands on you. If I'm being completely honest, you need to reevaluate what he is all about. That rabbit is the least of your worries. There is absolutely no excuse to act like that, and you should not accept that behavior in the slightest. I mean, you might even want to look at keeping the bunny and probably rehoming the boyfriend. It's just a little scary based on his reaction. It was such a violent outburst over something really not that big of a deal. I mean, there are ways to take care of the rabbit so it's not all over the place and messing up the house. This honestly just seems like the first step in a wrong direction by staying with this guy, and I think you got bigger things on your plate besides a bunny rabbit. My ex turned into my stalker, and I'm scared for my safety. I dated this guy online for a couple of days and found out he was cheating on me with a friend. I confronted him about it and ended up breaking it off, and he proceeded to make multiple Discord, Snapchat, Reddit, TikTok, and other accounts, and even fake phone numbers just to try and call me. I'm honestly scared for my life because I never gave out my last name to him. I never even gave out my phone number and have no idea how he found out all of my social media pages. I was honestly just having fun with this guy. He's from Europe and I'm from North America. We got along great and it was honestly too good to be true, so I got my friend to see why he wouldn't take his dating profile down. Basically, he hid hit on her and said he would see her and try and meet up. And when I confronted him, he played the victim, even far as going to make accounts pretending to be his friends and harassing me. I honestly didn't take the relationship super seriously, but now I'm fearing for my safety because he's found all my private social medias. I'm not sure what to do because I have family on Instagram and Facebook, and he's already tried following me on there. He got me to download some things from Minecraft, and I'm scared he got my information that way. He's made several posts begging for me to come back, and I told him that makes me incredibly uncomfortable. I come from a very religious household, and I'm very conservative. So if they find out I've been dating, I could get kicked out or worse. I honestly just need some advice on what I should do to protect myself, because I can't call the police on someone 6,000 miles away. Okay, I have so many questions. First off, why would you be even interested in dating someone that is 6,000 miles away? Like, I am all about long distance relationships. If you find someone you love, go for it. But for that first initial contact, that just screams suspicious to me. I don't know specifically how old the person is that's talking in this story, but from the sounds of it, it looks like they're super young and they did something really dumb. You just have to be more careful on the internet. There's some absolute weirdos out there that will try and do everything they can to try and ruin you or worse. And yeah, you're probably right. The fact that you downloaded something from Minecraft of all places was probably all he needed to try and put some kind of malware on your computer and get all of your information. You should probably start with that, to be honest. Hire someone to check your computer out and see if you can clean it out. The next thing you need to do is absolutely go to the police. If your parents love you, regardless of any kind of religious standing, they will do what they need to do to protect you. I think this person also may have just gotten catfished. Like, I really hope that's not the case, but there's always a chance that this is someone that could be stateside. And if that's the case, then you really got to do everything you can sooner than later. Overall, this is a really terrible situation, and I think it's just a good lesson learned that no matter who it is online, you have to be careful and you have to think about yourself first. My crazy mother tried to abandon my pet on the street multiple times, all because they used the bathroom inside of their house. My mother has tried to dump our cat onto the streets multiple times. The first time, she opened the porch door, allowing him to run away if he wanted to. The second time, she forced him into a filthy basement. She did this to try and make sure he'd get in the cage she put down there. It had food and water to try and lure him in. He never went in there, so she forced him to stay in the basement from April of 2021 to October of 2021. At one point in September, she wanted him gone because she assumed he used the bathroom outside of his litter box. And surprise, surprise, he didn't do that. My mom tried to dump him because he went to the bathroom in her room too much in his first week at our new house. Go figure when having a new pet, right? It's more messed up when you realize why she got the cats in the first place. When I was a kid, I got abused by her ex, and on the evening I told her, she wanted me to get anything at all, something to make it up to me. So she asked if I wanted a cat or a dog. I got my dear Max and 2 other cats in a very emotionally vulnerable time in my life. In February of this year, my other remaining cat, Castle, once peed in my mother's room. He used to spray a lot in our old house, but has hardly ever done so in the new house. She began devising a plan of how to dump him and get rid of him, but didn't follow through because she loved him too much. Also, before we moved into this new house, we had a goldfish. He was a little big, as was his fish tank. We'd had no room for him in this new house, so she dumped him down the toilet while he was still alive. Also, she believes in slapping dogs with newspapers rolled up in electrical tape. She would do this to our one dog by the name of Vader, and that dog became absolutely terrified of that rolled up piece of paper. When she brought home our new puppy, Harley, she also brought home the other taped up newspaper stick for situations where the puppy misbehaves or does something wrong. I never gave her the chance to use it on her because I threw it out. In September, when she wanted my cat dumped, she found out he didn't go outside his litter box while he was trapped in the basement. He is now upstairs and in our house on the condition that he uses the litter box as he should. In September, when I thought he was getting thrown outside, I remember being in the filthy ancient basement and just simply cuddling him. I was in tears and told him to never forget me and told him that I loved him. It was overall a terrible experience. It sounds like this mother does not need a dog or any kind of pet. She is clearly an abusive owner. I want to circle back to something that was said earlier. The goldfish was flushed down the toilet while it was still alive. That is horrible. Like, the mom has no business being around any kind of animals. And did you know that it is a federal crime to commit animal cruelty? I mean, how can you just treat an innocent animal like that? Especially if you haven't taken the time to train them and to have them act in the way you want them to act. Fun fact, you really can train cats. You can train them to go inside their litter box. There is a way paid to do it. But just threatening to throw the cat out and saying, okay, off into the real world you go, have fun by yourself, is blatant animal cruelty, and she should not have animals in her life. It's also upsetting that she would beat her dog. That is not the way to train a dog and have it still like you and have any semblance of a good relationship with you or anybody else. It's going to be afraid of you. It's going to act timid and scared. This is abuse, neglect, and it personally really upsets me. And in my opinion, if this gets any worse, you might need to get the authorities involved. Those animals are innocent and don't deserve to be treated poorly. A rich friend of mine asked me to cheat for a whole semester. Recently, a relatively well-off school friend of mine contacted me to let me know that she's been doing a job and that she is not technically qualified for it. She got the job through her connections at the business, which she has been working on at a part-time level for several years. In order to get the qualification, she needs to finish a module at university, but she doesn't have the time. So, and get this, she asked if I would do all her assignments for the semester, and she would pay me to do them. She told me she doesn't understand why she needs to get the qualifications, given that she has been doing the work for so long. Why does she think that she is so entitled to get this qualification without doing any of the work? Is this how rich people are these days? Also, it made me feel so disrespected that she thought I would participate in something like this, given that I am poor. It's absolutely ridiculous. How lazy can you possibly get? They didn't want to do the test and do any of the work, so they tried to get somebody else to do the job for them. It's frankly disgusting if you ask me. I kind of wish something like that would happen to me, where someone would come to me and be like, hey, I don't want to take the test and I don't want to go through this. I'll pay you to do it for me. Not only would I secretly report them, I would also still go throughout the entire semester and do absolutely terrible on purpose. There is no reason that someone like this should be able to get forward in life in this way. School is already hard enough. It's already tough trying to figure out what you want to do with your life and then trying to pursue that career path. People work very hard to get where they're going, and there are no free handouts. So someone like this absolutely needs to get put in their place, and they need to learn some kind of respect for those around them. And the original poster is absolutely right. They should feel disrespected because this is someone who's coming to them and basically trying to use them as a pawn in their own scheme to get more money in their own job. Like, just imagine for a second if someone caught you and found out you're taking these qualifications for your friend. Not only would you get in trouble, but they would too. But the fact that they're rich means that they're going to be fine. You, on the other hand, need a job, you need to go to school, and you need to be able to provide for yourself. It's just such an unfair balance of risk and reward. So yeah, they're totally in the right to feel this way, and I don't blame them for turning them down. Today I messed up by accidentally making a deadly gas while cleaning the litter box. I've had a cat for as long as I can recall, but it still doesn't keep me from messing up from time to time. Tonight was one of those times. Let me preface this with saying that I knew that you should never mix bleach and ammonia. It creates a chemical that can harm you and do a lot worse. What I did not realize was that apparently the ammonia in cat urine is strong enough to react as well. It's quite obvious once you think about it, but I didn't at the time. After I toss the litter away, I typically put the bin in the bathtub. I add some water, then I add some bleach to clean and disinfect. Well, this time I thought to myself, oh, let me toss the bleach into the tray since I was walking past the laundry anyways, instead of carrying the bleach to the bathroom. I should note that this time the bin was a bit dirtier than usual. It's as if the litter was not soaking up any of the urine. So as I dumped the bleach in, a lot more than I actually should or wanted to, mind you, it all started to foam up. A lot. And then I smell something and realize, wait a minute. Around that time, my brain cells clicked in. Cat urine has ammonia. Ammonia plus bleach equals no-no smoothie. This is gonna be a bad time. Cue the Batman music with me running around as quickly as I can like the Dark Knight, tossing out this concoction and cleaning everything out. I don't think there's any issues. I've vented everything and I'm fine and the cats are fine. And I've decided that I definitely need a new way to disinfect and clean the litter box. As a side note, I've always rinsed the bin out heavily and then dried it with a paper towel because I didn't want my fur babies to ever come in contact with bleach. But typically it's only a drop of bleach. I definitely put a ton more in this time since there was no water already mixed in, and I saw all of the wetness in the box after removing the litter. together. Overall though, I made a big mistake, and you can bet that will never happen again. For the rest of my life, I will be calling ammonia plus bleach equals no smoothie forever. Forever, that's it. That's the only thing I'm going to call that. I'm not going to call it a poisonous gas. I'm not going to say that it can potentially unalive you. I'm going to say that it's a no smoothie. I've seen stories like this before in a similar fashion, where an owner of a pet tries to use both of those ingredients to try and get rid of some bad smell or some kind of stain, or they want to try and disinfect something, but it always ends in the same way. Them realizing that they just made something terrible. And not in the terrible, haha, this was bad way. Terrible in the, oh no, we might be in a serious situation kind of way. Legitimately though, these two ingredients mixed together can actually really hurt you. So you never want to try this yourself. I think it's safe to say that the original poster will probably be much more careful the next time they clean out their litter box. Today I messed up by missing obvious signs that a girl was into me and not taking a chance on it when I had the chance. When reading the following story, just keep in mind that I was a very dumb 16-year-old. Pretty much at some point late term, this really attractive girl decided to come and sit next to me. She gave no reason and just sat there next to me for the whole lesson, not saying a thing. About 1 week later, she starts to try and make conversation. I can't exactly remember what she said, but I know my awkward reply was something along the lines of, I think so, yeah. Over the course of the next week, she continually tried to make conversation with me. I'm not good at talking to girls in any way, shape, or form. Whenever she said anything, I would mutter a stuttered reply and not say anything else. She still, for some reason, persisted. Fast forward a bit, and she's looking for a dress. She was looking at the most revealing dress you could possibly imagine on her computer. It took every essence of self-control in me not to just stare like an idiot. After doing this for a couple of days, she asked me what I thought of one of them. I was like, yeah, it's good. I mean, I guess, I don't know. Yeah, it's pretty good. She mentioned that she was going to go clubbing in it, to which I said absolutely nothing. I was just staring at the ceiling, wishing I would spontaneously combust. Now that I'm actually writing this down, I realize how much of an oblivious idiot I was. She was so obviously into me, but I never noticed. She was indirectly asking me out. How could I be so stupid? A while after this, she stops looking at dresses. On the day of our first test for this subject, she sits next to me again and asks me if I wanted to move to her desk. I said something to the effect of, oh, that's okay, I'm not worrying about that, as if insinuating she is of a lesser intelligence or something. This is not at all what I meant. I was just trying to be nice while trying to make a conversation finish as fast as possible. She took this pretty well and just didn't move her desk. After the test was over, she asked me how I thought I did. I replied, I think I did pretty well. I'm pretty sure I knew most of the answers. I probably came off like an arrogant idiot because she gave me this look like, what are you doing? This was legit the hardest test ever. For some reason at this point, I decide to ask her how she thought she did. She said something like, I think I did pretty well, but probably not as good as you. At this point, I realized I was in over my head. No possible reply I could think of would possibly not insult her. I resolved to just say nothing and stare at her with a Dumbo look on my face. Again, I'm wishing to spontaneously combust. These awkward situations kept on happening, all the way up until the second to last test we had in that class. She put her bag down between her chair and mine and was definitely trying to get closer to me. Again, wishing that I was consumed by fire. I actually felt so uncomfortable and awkward that I posted something on another subreddit about how to avoid this situation or make it more bearable. I was informed that she was in fact into me and I should probably stop acting like an idiot, not saying anything. I make a plan on what to say. Skip ahead to earlier today. I'm standing outside the classroom and she walks up towards me. I immediately forget my plan and I freeze up. Luckily, she starts talking to one of her friends near me instead. When the teacher arrives, I walk into the class and sit in my normal spot. I am ready this time with a conversation starter. I was gonna say, oh man, I'm so screwed about this test tomorrow. How about you? It was funny and left the room for conversation to develop. However, this was the one and only lesson that she decided she wasn't gonna sit next to me. And overall, I kinda missed my shot. Brother, I've been here so many times. You could literally write the hints on the wall in bright neon orange and I would still miss the signals when someone's trying to flirt with me. I totally get it and I know exactly what you mean. I do feel kind of bad for this original poster though, because they missed a really good opportunity. She was clearly into him and he should have just gone for it. That's honestly the biggest lesson from this. I think if you do it in a right way and you're not weird about it, it could be a good relationship. And she was dropping some serious hints the entire time. So overall, it's kind of a lesson learned situation, but at least the next time that happens, if it ever does, you can be ready for it. My entitled mother unalived my fake baby from school, and now I think I might fail. This happened in high school when I was 16. Now I am 26, and I'm still bitter about it because it wrecked my GPA. So when I was in high school, I was in home ec for the second year in a row. At my school, we had different levels of home ec, just like how there's a Spanish 1, Spanish 2, and a Spanish 3, kind of like that. So freshman year, you did the boiled egg baby experiment, but in the higher level classes, we got these fancy robotic baby dolls. The dolls had sensors in them in different spots, in the mouth, the back, the bottom, stuff along those lines. We got these special instruments that also had sensors in them so that when we would put the pretend bottle up to the baby would react to it and then stop crying. It was really high-tech stuff. The fake baby also had a sensor in the neck, and that if the neck went too far back, it would register it and it would read it as if it was broken. We were assigned the babies for one weekend. At this time, I was in marching band and had games on Friday nights. I was worried that I wouldn't be able to hear the baby cry over the crowd and also the band. So I asked my mom to babysit. I showed her how to properly take care of the fake baby while I was gone, and she said that she would handle it no problem. So I go to the game, I do my marching band stuff, and I go home. I get the baby back, and my mom says that everything went well. I noticed when she gave it back that the baby did have some different baby clothes on, and she said they'd gone over to my aunt's and the cousins had dressed the baby up, but that she watched them do it. I got a little annoyed. I told her it wasn't a toy and that this was my grade on the line, but she told me to just calm down. So the rest of the weekend goes by, I take care of the fake baby and didn't miss anything. To be fair, I've been watching kids since I was 14, and my job at the time was at a daycare. I got Fridays off for games and they were closed on weekends. So Monday rolls around and we turn in the babies, and they print out the reports from the computer. I got a really low score, like a 57 or something like that. I failed, that's for sure. I'm so mad because I didn't do anything wrong. I hadn't missed a thing. On the printout, it said that the baby's neck had broken over like 10 times and had been left in a dirty diaper like 8 times and hadn't been fed around the same amount of time. To say that I was in shock was an understatement. I know I wasn't the only one who probably had some mess ups in the class, but I was still upset. So I obviously confronted my mom, outraged. She had tanked my grade and I was an A and B student. She denied the whole thing, and my stepdad tried to say it was me who did it, and I was just trying to push blame on my mom because I didn't want to admit I did something wrong, which is just not the case. So I went back to the teacher and asked her if she could print out a list of the infractions, except this time with the timestamps attached to them. She said she could do that. I also asked that if I could get a letter from my parents saying that they had done all that stuff to the baby, that she could possibly pass me, and she said that, well, we'll have to see. So I get the paper, and sure enough, every infraction was between the time I dropped the baby off with my mom and the time I picked it up after the game. I took the paper to my mom and I confronted her. I remember my stepdad had the audacity to say I had faked it somehow, as if that's even possible. But I finally got her to admit that she had basically let the cousins take it to their bedrooms and play with it like it was a baby doll. All of this while she and my stepdad got wasted with my aunt. They wrote the letter, I got the permission, gave it to my teacher, and I got a C. But I'm clearly still resentful even all these years later. I basically swore that day to never trust my mom with my future kids. This was also when I started to wise up to just how bad my mom and stepdad's drinking was. I had been dealing with it, but I had been in denial since I was in 8th grade. But that fall, it really just hit me how unreliable they are and how much they prioritize their drinking over me and potentially my future unborn child. The original poster in this story is so smart. I'm so happy they didn't take this grade lying down because they know for a fact they took care of that baby. I love how they went to their teacher and said, hey, give me the timestamps, I got some work to do. And it's really unfortunate that this person has really terrible parents who can't just admit that they did something terrible and wrong because they did everything right. They made sure to take care of the baby. They were going above and beyond to make sure this maintained their GPA. But her mom and her stepdad absolutely tanked her GPA, and it's so terrible. But I think some really valuable wisdom and lessons have been learned from this, and that is that maybe you can't quite trust your parents in the way that you thought you could, specifically in this situation. I mean, the mom and the stepdad just let the baby go to the little cousins, and then they broke its neck like 10 times in a row. That's like horrifying. It wasn't a baby doll. It was like something that they needed to take care of in order for her to get a good grade, and they couldn't even do that. So good for her for stepping up, taking the initiative, and making sure she didn't take this sitting down. This next one came from the Am I the Jerk podcast subreddit. Check the links in the description if you'd like to submit your own stories. Am I the jerk for forgiving someone that I know for a fact I'm going to be cutting out of my life soon? I am a 19-year-old female in my first year of college. I meet someone I used to be neighbors with, and let's just call her name Eve. And she's 21 years old, and we have an English class together, just for some context. I have lived in my current house since I was 1 year old, so I thought we would be friends, but that was before I learned what she is really like. Eve is such an attention seeker and will make it seem like she has the most stress in the world and no one can understand how she feels. For example, she was kissed without consent, and yes, that can be a lot to take on, and she didn't deal with her feelings. She completely had me, as if she would be crying and then text me saying she's having a panic attack. Eve always complains that she has so much work and that she can't do it because of her anxiety, blaming the incident where she was kissed without her consent. She also claims that she had 5 panic attacks this past week. I personally do not joke about panic attacks, as I have had some in the past, and I thought that I was absolutely going to explode. Having that many in a week are not okay, and you should go see a doctor, but she hasn't. I would talk to my friends about her, as we would have rant sessions to just talk about our feelings or anything else, and I would always say that she's really nice and she's a sweet girl. My friends, on the other hand, are telling me to drop her as my mental health has become compromised. She is in a club at our school, and she uses the club officers for pity or to organize her thoughts because I guess she needs help with her mental health issues, all because she just can't handle the stress all at once. Last week on Tuesday, she stomps into our English class with headphones on and her hood up. Eve hides from everyone and told the president of the club she wants to meet. The day before even, she wore a very revealing outfit that kind of had her exposed, if you know what I mean. And my boyfriend was the only person to say, hey, you might need to adjust yourself. She was mad because my boyfriend was apparently shaming her for the way that she was dressing. But my boyfriend believes in having a little bit of decency and was just trying to help. She was also mad at me because I am apparently stealing her friends like we're in elementary school or something. The reason it probably seems like I'm taking all of her friends is because everybody in the club is just simply done with her. And I try to be friendly with everyone. I was very upset that she insulted my boyfriend and was telling other people without some context to make him look bad. She also called me Tuesday and said that she was still mad at my boyfriend for what he had said and told me not to tell my boyfriend that she had just told me that. But in the end, I did tell my boyfriend exactly what she said, because we have an open line of communication between us, and keeping something like this from him is just not fair to him at all. Thursday rolls around and Eve texted me saying she wants to talk and apologize. So I meet with her and we talk things out. I say that she's been a lot recently and I simply need some space, and she apologizes for ignoring me. Unfortunately though, for Eve, she does not know that I know that she's been saying terrible things about me behind my back. I'm personally glad that we're nearing the end of the semester so I won't have to see her again. But I come back to the original question. Am I the jerk for forgiving her even though I'm going to be cutting off contact with her soon? No, I don't think you're a jerk at all. I think you're doing what needs to be done so that you can have some space. It sounds like this person is a mess and they definitely need to work on themselves. It seems like their story and their situation changes every single day, and you are not responsible for trying to navigate that. If they want to try and be a good friend, then they need to start with themselves. This is nothing that you can fix. So I honestly don't blame you for trying to cut off contact, and hopefully that goes well. I tried to flirt with a substitute teacher in high school as a joke, and it went terribly wrong. This is a throwaway account for obvious reasons. Today in school, I had a substitute teacher for English class. As an icebreaker, I'm not really sure why they did this, she had us share our answers on if we could go forward or backwards in time, where would we go and why? She was going through each student in the class for attendance, and for some reason I was really firm on my answer. I rehearsed it in my mind for 100 times until it was my turn. I said I would go forward in time to when you fall in love with me, which should be in around 1 second. I thought I would get thunderous applause and belly laughs. Instead, I got dead silence, and the teacher gave me an awkward response. I had no idea what flashed across my mind before I decided to say this, and it was extremely inappropriate of me to say that. I was mortified by this, and I absolutely wish that I had just said nothing. I think this would constitute as a core cringe memory. You know how as a kid you can have like a core memory and it's just embedded into your mind, like it's just there forever? This is going to be one of those embarrassing moments that is embedded into this person's mind for the rest of eternity. That is so unbelievably awkward and daring to say that I can't even begin to describe the cringe that I feel just even reading that. What were they thinking? Why did they think that would be a good idea? I was almost hoping and praying that they would say that their friends had kind of put them up to it, or that they were dared to do something something like that. But no, they just said it because they wanted to say it. But I honestly understand the logic. I mean, when it's a substitute teacher, that is like prime real estate to decide to be a complete moron and hopefully get away with it. You're probably not going to see this person on a regular basis like you do your normal teacher. So by all means, goof off and try and have a good time. Chances are that substitute teacher is not going to really do that much for your class and is mostly just there to babysit you because the other teacher's out. So let this be a word to the wise. Next time you get a substitute teacher, you probably shouldn't try to flirt with them because it will probably go terribly wrong. I'm being ghosted off and on by this guy that I'm interested in, and I don't know what to do. I'm 17 years old and the guy I've been talking to is 17 as well. We've been talking for a couple of months now. He was a really cool guy and it was nice talking to him, and I would occasionally see him around school. We talked more through text than anything else. Recently, he's been super dry and has been ghosting me off and on. It started off with him saying he's just been having a bad day, but it hasn't been the same since. I confronted him through text and asked him if I did anything wrong, but he said no. I didn't believe his response because we have mutual friends together. So I'm in another group chat with him and he talks to them like everything is okay. He's not dry at all there. I tried talking to him again earlier today, but he just left me undelivered for hours, still with no response. I always have to try and start the conversations now, or he doesn't talk at all. I want to talk to him like normal again, but I feel dumb for even trying. I don't think I did anything wrong, but it hurt because I thought everything was okay between us since he was the one who wanted to talk to me first. It just doesn't make any sense to me why he started acting super differently recently. I also don't want to make things awkward between our friend group. I have a really good friend who's friends with him, and sometimes she'll try to get me to talk to him, but he just seems uninterested. I don't know why, but I feel like she might be the reason he stopped talking to me. I'm friends with this other guy who she doesn't like at all. There might have been a possibility that she told him about it. It just doesn't make any sense because wouldn't she stop talking to me completely and not tell other people about it? I might be overthinking this though, because that doesn't make sense for him to stop talking to me for that, but he does care about her a lot. I have been trying to find him around school, but he literally started taking different paths to avoid me. I usually always see him after school and he's never there anymore. Should I keep trying to talk to him and possibly confront him in person, or should I just give up completely? What should I do? This is a rough one, and I'm sorry to be the person to say this, but he probably is not worth your time. You can probably confront him in person if you really want to be bold, but it sounds like this guy does not want to talk to you, he is not interested in you, and in all honesty, you can probably do better. And I'm not even going to let the excuse of him just being shy or awkward get by on this one, because that's a terrible excuse. Like you're leaving someone on red who supposedly you were somewhat interested in, and then suddenly just cold turkey, you're going to say, nope, I'm not interested anymore. Imagine trying to pursue after that, getting into a serious relationship with them, and then having them do that constantly throughout the relationship. To me, that would be a living nightmare, and I would not want to deal with that. And I hope the person in this story also doesn't want to deal with that. So overall, you could do a lot better than this, and it's time to probably look at moving on. My ex-boyfriend cheats on me with my cousin, but in the end, I get the last laugh. So I dated my ex from 2018 until late 2019. I met him while at a get-together, and his cousin introduced us, and it was an immediate clicking moment where we just connected. He was 43 and I was 26, but we did not care about the age gap between us. We were happy and in love. That is until I decided to take him to a family gathering and things started to go bad. If I could take back time, I would not have gone after what happened next. I presented him to everyone, and one of my cousins, who let's just say has a habit and is quite notorious for trying to spend time with my boyfriends and the guys that I spend time with, and tries to butt in between my relationships and date the men that I'm interested in. She tried to make some kind of approach towards him, but I was proud that he clapped back and wouldn't allow that to happen. But subtle changes started to happen after a while after this event. We would go on little dates or try to spend time together, but he would almost always never be available. We would plan to take road trips, and he would always say that he didn't want to go. He wouldn't want to be close to me or spend any quality, intimate time together. He would even start little arguments with me for no reason and had the audacity to start comparing me with my cousin, which is something I absolutely despise. It eventually led to him not even allowing me to visit him at his apartment. I eventually came to the conclusion and had a strong feeling that he was cheating on me with my cousin. Anytime I would say her name, he would go pale in the face and start stuttering. So I decided to investigate. All of his texts would be transferred to me, thanks to Apple, as evidence of his cheating, and a coworker would tell me his schedule, and I had an extra key to his apartment just in case I wanted to try and catch him in the act. So one day when he said that he would work extra hours, a coworker of his confirmed that he left his workplace, and I decided that now was the time. I went over to his apartment and my suspicion was true. He was in the middle of spending some quality time with my cousin, if you know what I mean. I wanted to scream, cry, or do something even worse, but I was frozen in place, completely gobsmacked. When they did notice me, they tried to make up excuses. In the end, I just took a picture and sent it to WhatsApp, grabbed my stuff, and left. Our relationship fell apart as my boyfriend quickly became my ex-boyfriend. That's when he and my cousin started to get petty. As an act of some kind of twisted revenge, I would receive photos or videos of them spending time together, and I was absolutely disgusted by this. I cried and suffered for far too long because of this. I even got to the point where I deleted all of my social media, and I would avoid family gatherings because I would not want to see them together again. But eventually, I decided to change and work on myself. It was the best 2 years of my life. I started kickboxing to work out, I went to therapy, I learned some new languages, I took cooking classes, yoga, and I was going out so much more. About a year ago, I decided to become an Instagram and TikTok influencer by telling the stories of my life and exploring my home country of Puerto Rico, and I really started to enjoy life from there. I even started dating an old high school classmate where our chemistry was amazing and he treats me so well. So 2 weeks ago, I was invited to a family gathering and my boyfriend came with me, and I was legitimately terrified that history was about to repeat itself, and boy was I proven wrong. I saw my ex and my disgusting cousin, and my ex looked miserable, and just like clockwork, my cousin tried to start flirting with my boyfriend in front of everybody, but my boyfriend called her out and embarrassed her in front of the entire crowd of people. Everybody was happy, but my cousin was mad throughout the entire evening because of that moment, and at that moment I realized how amazing my new boyfriend was. Back home after the event, and throughout the days while I was uploading my content to Instagram, I received a new follower, and it was my ex. I didn't end up blocking him, as I wanted him to see how well I was doing without him. Sometimes the best form of revenge is showing an ex how well you are doing without them anywhere near you. Beautiful, beautiful experience here. I am so proud of this woman for rising above this disgusting situation and becoming better than she ever could have been. Imagine if she tried to stick with this guy even though he was cheating on her with her cousin. She would have been miserable. She would have stifled her growth as a human being, and she would have missed out on all of the amazing opportunities that she currently has the chance to pursue. Stories like these don't come around very often, but when they do, man, they're awesome to see. So good for her for rising above that terrible ex-boyfriend. And honestly, the sky is the limit for her. My girlfriend throws a temper tantrum anytime I don't help her out with something. I work and study at university full time. At the end of the day, I'm pretty tired and usually want to settle down and go to sleep around midnight. My girlfriend, who I love so much, is depressed and doesn't do much during her days. It has been this way since we started dating. I try my best to motivate her and to help her feel good so that she can work out or study or do something, but it's mostly to no avail. She has been good to me so far, but lately she has been getting increasingly demanding when it comes to helping her out with things in her life. We had a book assignment for today, and she wanted me to read the book out loud yesterday so she could prepare for her assignment. At first I was like, yeah, sure, I would love to help you right now, but it is getting late and I have to get up early tomorrow and go. She threw the biggest temper tantrum about how I don't care about her and that this is why she doesn't want to be with me. It hurt me so much when she said that. Either way, I ended up reading the whole book of like 300 pages out loud, finishing at about 3 in the morning. She also wants me to go to the gym with her and basically be her physical trainer. She wants me to count out loud. She wants me to do the same strange TikTok exercises with her. I understand that the gym is good for both of us, but she takes extremely long and I don't have time to work out for like 3 hours every other day. Either way, I tried to express the gym issue in a civil way, but she throws basically the same temper tantrum at the exact same level. Also, I think this is not an issue of me not being able to make time. We are still able to do standard couple activities without any problem. I would love to hear from someone who has been in a similar situation because I'm not sure what to do. If you were in my shoes, what would you do? This is some really red flag kind of behavior, and I don't mean to use that in such a cliche way. Like, the way she's acting is super unreasonable. You have every right to put your needs ahead of her wants, and sleep and downtime is a very big need. If she can't can't accept that you need time to recharge and to do your own thing, then we really need to kind of discuss, hey, do I even want to be with this person? Like the fact that she would throw a temper tantrum over the smallest things is just not okay. That's really unacceptable behavior, and adults should not act like that. And the fact that you stayed up till 3 in the morning reading a 300-page book out loud to her is more than enough evidence for me to say that you might be a pushover in this situation. It seems like she knows if she throws a big enough fuss about something that you're probably gonna cave and do it anyways. And that is not okay. But even worse than all of that, she literally vocalized that she doesn't want to be with you, saying something to the effect of, well, this is why I don't want to be with you. Like, dude, it might be time to look at dumping her and going to someone who does want to be with you, because you deserve so much more than that. My entitled mom is demanding that I quit my job and go back to grad school. My mother is an extremely entitled mother, borderline Karen activity, if you know what I mean. And she has struck once again. And this time she has some very extreme demands. Her first demand is that I quit my job at Walmart. Her stance on this is because they treat their workers bad, and it's just too far. Both of these points are null and void in my eyes, as it's literally just 20 minutes away, and they treated me fine so far. I think her supposedly making me do this is so I can go back to grad school for a certificate program. I want to stay with Walmart as they are giving me an unofficial entry-level position in my field, and this will allow me to transfer into the corporate office as they have a robust department that is world-renowned, and not just because they are a worldwide company. And that will be a great point on my resume, I think. Transportation from A to B is not a problem, as I have my driver's license and a car I can use whenever I want. I need the money, despite what my mother was wailing about whenever she says, you don't need the money. Besides, I love working for the company, as I have friends at my job that make the day go by faster and make me smile, unlike my entitled mother. Her second point is to continue to push me to attend grad school in a certificate program. I am not against the idea of going to grad school. I just want to work for a while to get the experience and hopefully take advantage of an employer's benefit to pay for my grad school when the full program gets approved in a couple of years. My entitled mother's response was, you should still apply, as most certificate programs become grad school programs, and it'll only be a year or two on top of it. I mentioned to her that I don't want to look at grad school right now. The reason for this is because I have been in school for at least 16 years across 3 countries. I deserve a break from school, at least for a while in my eyes. And to boot, my friends are not doing grad school right away either. They're all trying to get jobs in their fields for after graduation. I think the way they're acting is all just to try and increase my dependence on them when I told them that no, I don't want to be a third wheel in their life, and that I want to have my own life. And I have a plan. I mean, honestly, it sounds like the original poster in this story has their stuff together. Like, they very clearly know what they want and they have it pretty much figured out. And to be honest, there's nothing wrong with working at Walmart, especially if you have aspirations to move to the corporate level. That could be a really good step in the right direction. You don't necessarily have to go back to grad school to get a special certificate to do the job that you want to do. And it sounds like this guy has a way to get around all of that. He won't have to go to school. He can just kind of jump the fence and then go straight to their program. And it sounds like in a few years, Walmart might have a program where they pay for that themselves. How could you not stay loyal to that and at least give that a try? Especially if it sounds like this is already in the works. And in all honesty, grad school is a grind, even when you do want to be there. Imagine being there when you don't want to do that. It will not be a good time. And unless you are getting amazingly funded by somebody or you have some kind of grant that's helping you get through school, you'll be paying for the privilege of suffering. That is, unless you go. It sounds like from the outside looking in that the mom is trying to control the path that her son is taking, and I just don't think that's fair at all. He has his situation worked out and he knows what he wants to do. And in all honesty, she just needs to back off and let him make his own decisions. I think my dad has a secret family, and I'm very concerned. My mom says she and my dad haven't been intimate in 20 years. Me and my sister are both in our mid-20s, so I guess they basically had us and just gave up after that. Anyway, my suspicions are because my dad makes a lot of money, but he doesn't do anything for my mom besides pay the rent for our tiny apartment. I still live with them, sadly, but I am suspicious because ever since I was a kid, he would travel for concerts, but that's about it. Besides that, he's gone like all day and goes straight to bed. I found a receipt in his car one time that had a bunch of kids' meals and a martini on it. My dad says he doesn't drink except for like a sip of wine every now and then for his heart health. When I asked him about it, he acted in shock. and said he had no idea where it came from. My mom has severe mental health issues and is home almost all of the time. He doesn't spend time with her at all. She's depressed and lonely and has even made jokes about him having another family or another girlfriend, and all of his friends thinks the same way. I know it would be crushing to my mom if this was a reality. I guess my question is, do I just leave this alone? I feel so bad for my mom. I've got to do something though. I think this original poster has not considered the idea that maybe they are the secret family. I'm just kidding. This does sound insane though. It would be one thing if maybe you were just suspicious on your own that your dad has a secret family, but the fact that all of your friends also kind of feel the same way is enough for you to say, hey, maybe I should investigate this. You could hire like a private investigator to try and look and see what he does on a daily basis. And to be honest, you will know very quickly if there's some kind of deviation from his normal path during the day. It doesn't make sense for him to have all this money and to make all this money from his job and then not spend it and still live in this tiny weird apartment. Like if he's going around all day and he travels for like concerts and stuff and he only comes home to sleep straight away and not spend time with his wife, to me, if I was in this person's shoes, that would definitely be suspicious. Not to mention the receipt that was found in the car with a bunch of kids' meals and a few drinks. The dad clearly was not ready for someone to find that kind of receipt because he just pretended like he had never seen it before. But if you would keep that receipt and do a little bit of investigating, you'll probably see that most likely he paid with a card or something, and it might line up with the card numbers that are on his current credit card. I don't know. There's a lot of ways you could look into this, but if you have the suspicion that there might be a second family, absolutely go for it. Look into it, investigate it, try and find out if that's really true. Because if that is true, that is absolutely insane. That is a level of unfaithfulness that I can't even begin to describe. And I too also feel bad for the mom in this situation, because that would be crushing for her, let alone anybody, to find out that they have a secret second family. And what kind of person would have time for that? The logistics behind that and the hurdles you would have to jump through just to coordinate that is so not worth the risk, it's not even funny. But overall, hopefully this is not the case, and I would almost prefer that the dad is overworked and a little stressed out instead of going behind your back and having a second family. My boyfriend jokes about cheating, but got a bit upset about my response to these jokes. Last weekend, I stayed over at my boyfriend's place. I'm 25 years old and my boyfriend is also 25. When we were about to take a shower, he said he hadn't done laundry, so there was no clean towel for me. I said it's fine and I can use an old one, as I had just stayed over the last weekend. He then said, are you sure? And I replied, yeah, what's wrong with the old one? He then jokingly said, well, because some other girl used it. To which I replied, oh really? Another girl used my towel? He had this smirk on his face and he said, are you mad? I said, no, you do whatever you want, right? And then he asked, do you think I would cheat? I replied, I don't know, because even if you cheat, I wouldn't know. He seemed to get a bit upset from my response and said, no, there was no girl and I didn't cheat. Then we brushed it off and went about our day. Now thinking back, this incident had me a bit confused and scared. I'm not sure if he was joking or telling the truth or just needing some assurance. Overall, it was a little bit of a weird situation. This is a really sketchy situation because I think maybe he was just joking, but I also wouldn't blame this girl for thinking there's some shred of truth in that. Like, I have some friends who have had people cheat on them and their ex would say stuff like this as some kind of like reassurance or something like that, where they would almost approach the subject of like, hey, I might be cheating on you, who knows, just to try and gauge how you would respond to it. And this kind of reminds me of that. I don't know specifically if that's what's going on, but I mean, hey, crazier things have happened, right? I would just really suggest that the original poster be careful. It also seems like he's just trying to play games with her, and it just seems super inappropriate. Like, there's different ways to flirt with your significant other, but pretending to cheat on them, even just in joking, is really, really crude, and in my opinion, completely out of line. There's no reason to do that, and it can be really damaging to a relationship if you go that route. Like, just look at this situation in general. The girl comes out of it feeling confused and scared. Why would you want someone you love to feel that way? Find a new way to joke around and have some fun, because continuing down that path will eventually lead in a breakup. My roommate hates me for not driving him everywhere. I am at my wit's end with my roommate, and I am only one more fight away from having some kind of physical altercation. I'm a 19-year-old female, and I moved in with my now husband about a year and a half ago. His roommates, as I've recently learned, never wanted me in the first place. I was told they agreed to move in by my husband, but according to them, that wasn't true. They have since grown somewhat fond of me, cracking jokes, and even feeling more comfortable around me. Recently, one of my roommates and I have been fighting a lot. The roommate is a 23-year-old man man, and I work with him at a fast food joint. However, he is technically my boss. This has caused some strain between us, but never anything we haven't had the chance to work through. We are all moving across the country in 3 months together. And yes, this is very important to the story. My roommate doesn't want to drive, so he carpools with me. Between all 4 roommates, there are only 2 cars. This can cause some issues with scheduling here and there when it comes to all of us working full-time jobs. Yesterday, I had the day off. One thing to do on my bucket list before our big move was to pick up my diploma from graduating high school in a town about 2 hours away from where we currently live. My parents live in said town, and we had planned lunch that day as well. I left at around 1 o'clock in the afternoon to make it on time before school got out and they locked the doors. Unbeknownst to me, my roommate worked that day. My other roommate could not drive him, leaving roommate to buy an Uber. He came at me today while we were in the car on the way to work. He said that I was avoiding taking him to work, that I knew he worked, and that I am never reliable. He then began raising his voice about having to spend money because of me. I told him that I have plans and my own life, and that he is 23 years old and without a license. Even if I wanted to drive him that day, I would not be able to, as my old high school locks doors at 4 o'clock, which is when he needs to work. I said I am in no way obligated to drive him everywhere he needs to go, and I drive him because he's my friend and my roommate and coworker. He continued his tirade until we finally arrived at work. I was speechless, and he, thinking he won the argument, told me when he works next that he needs a ride. However, this is when I snapped. I again reminded him that I am not his chauffeur, and I am not obligated to drive him everywhere. I told him he can find his own rides from now on, either with the other roommate, co-workers, or buying an Uber. If he didn't appreciate the free rides, then I would cut him off. He began yelling about how it wasn't fair, about how he didn't even want me in the house, and that he can't get his license as it's too late and it's way too close to our move for him to get a permit, a license, and then a car. I told him that I don't care and he can figure it out himself. My husband says I overreacted and should wait until he gets a permit in our new state before cutting him off. I personally disagree. So tell me what you think. Is he entitled? Should I continue cutting him off? This is an easy one for me personally. Yes, absolutely. Cut him off. He is 100% entitled. This is a 23-year-old man who does not have a driver's license. This is unacceptable. He needs to get off of his butt, get his license, and get it done. He should have done this about 5 or 6 years ago. Isn't this something that you would normally be pushed to take care of when you're in high school? I get that there's people that don't quite get their license right away, but this guy is absolutely being very entitled over a good opportunity. He should be gracious and very thankful for this person even considering giving them a ride, because the way he is acting is incredibly unfair. This lady is not obligated to drive him everywhere and anywhere that he wants, because yes, she has her own life and she can do whatever she pleases. I also think it's a little problematic that you're sticking around with these roommates, because they all blatantly have said that they didn't want you around and that they didn't really want you as a roommate. So I would really consider if you want to move across the country just to spend any more time living with these people. Overall, you need to cut them off and have a plan to move forward, because you can do a lot better than some guy trying to take advantage of your free car rides. My wife doesn't trust me, and I can't keep living this way. I took out the trash recently, and my wife asked me if I washed my hands, which I was going to do anyways. So I washed them up to my elbows, knowing my wife likes things excessively clean. Then she asks, "Wait, did you take out the garbage?" At this point, I shivered with irritation because I knew what was coming next. She then says, can you change your shirt? No, my shirt was fine. I held the trash away from my body when I took it out. This goes on till we ignore each other and eventually I change my shirt. I hate giving in to her cleaning paranoia. I hate washing my hands as much as she already asks, and it's always over every single task that she asks me to wash my hands. It's honestly soul grinding. I used to go backpacking and wash myself in a river after a few days and I was perfectly fine. I don't need to wash my hands over every little thing that I do. And when I do wash my hands, which is very frequently throughout the day, she always asks if I use soap. Certainly some of this is my fault because there are times I straight up lie and only rinse my hands without using soap because it's overly excessive and my hands are getting too dried out. Honestly, everything is just so micromanaged. It's driving me crazy. I understand that COVID happened, but I mean, come on. This is too much. Every weekend, I just stay locked up in my small apartment because I know if I go outside, inside. I have to take a shower when I get back, plus dealing with her getting frustrated at the idea of someone wanting to go out of the apartment at all. It's making my existence pointless. If I buy stuff for the house, like food to feed us or our son, she gets annoyed because she has to wipe it all down, and apparently I guess she's the only one good enough to wipe it down most of the time. She has tried to let it go, but this has become a serious problem. I'm at my wit's end. I know I shouldn't have married her, but we have a son together and we thought it would fix things. That was definitely not the case. She has no job and has been in school for quite a few years trying to get into nursing. I feel like I'll be supporting her for years and never get to enjoy my life in the slightest. If she could just trust me, I feel we could work things out, but I just feel so taken advantage of. I already do too much laundry, trash, dinner, taking my son to and from school. I'm the only one working. I'm exhausted. All of this and then some so that she can focus on school, but then keeps complaining that we never give her enough time. I don't feel like I deserve to be treated this way. I'm really thinking divorce is our best option, but I fear for her failure in the world when she has to do everything herself. She has no idea and zero appreciation for what I do, yet I'm supposed to appreciate her? For what? She contributes, but I don't feel like it's with anything necessary. Her mom is a gold digger, and I think she feels she deserves the same lifestyle and is angry that I can't support at the rate a millionaire does. I can never afford vacations. Money is always spent, just trying to stay afloat constantly. I am so done. So here's some honest advice. Don't get married to pull a relationship together or because you have a child together. I don't like my life anymore. I used to be very happy, but now I just want to be alone a lot. My son is awesome and he's everything now, but even that's difficult because of the state of my marriage. Honestly, any advice would be welcome because I'm not sure what to do. This sounds like a mess of a situation. What started off as just excessive hand washing and, from the sounds of it, a wife who is very conscientious about hygiene is kind of showing this bigger picture that this is actually a really toxic environment. Being micromanaged on a daily basis over everything you do and having someone you love and trust, or you would expect to love and trust you back, not trust you on the littlest things, can be absolutely mind-numbing. It makes you feel like you're going crazy. No one needs to be pecked at that much just to try and get something done. I really feel for the guy in this situation, and I know exactly where he's coming from. You feel like you can't get anything done and nothing you ever do is good enough. I mean, the fact that he has to change his shirt and take a shower after just taking the garbage out is personally crazy to me. Like, I totally understand washing your hands after taking out the garbage. Like, I don't think that's unreasonable. But all the other stuff that he mentioned just seems like it's going over the line to almost obsessive. It's a shame that he thinks this is just not going to work out and that divorce might be the only option, but maybe they could try couples therapy. And honestly, after that, if it doesn't work out, then maybe he can go that route. Overall though, hopefully they work this out, and hopefully in the future he won't have to wash his hands every other minute just because someone tells him to. Today I messed up by accidentally unaliving some stranger's chicken by mistake. This is a mandatory clarification that this did not happen today. The incident occurred just over 2 weeks ago. I didn't think much of it back then, but now I realize it might be a bit more entertaining than I thought at first. One of my friends and I am on this month-long trip to Thailand. I have never been to Asia before, but my friend has traveled here multiple times over the years. Since he has been here before, he is knowledgeable and I trust him fully as he guides me through the adventure. We traveled in different parts of Thailand, all around big, well-known cities, and it was a lot of fun. He advised us to both rent motorcycles, but these are not quite the motorcycles that I'm used to. These are much smaller than the ones we have in North America. The motorcycles were helpful to get around, but I have essentially no experience driving at all. I had been only riding around on the motorcycle for about 2 or 3 days when this major mess up happened. The hotel we were staying at was smaller and off the main road on a small side road in the city. The road is about one small lane in each direction and is surrounded mostly by undeveloped grasslands with scattered shacks for miles before you finally get to the hotel. So I was still quite inexperienced on my bike as I'd been driving for about 3 hours in total. Just as some general information, in Thailand you drive on the left side of the road, but the idea of lanes and the such are more of a suggestion to these people than something that they absolutely abide by. As I am nearing my hotel on this small road, I see a few chickens off to the side of the road on my left and a shack or a stall on the road that makes it a little bit of a blind corner directly past these 3 or 4 chickens. Anyways, one chicken was in the middle of the road, sort of in my path. I didn't really know what to do, but I was only going about 20 to 15 miles an hour. Like, it wasn't that fast. The distance between the stall and the chicken made it so I couldn't really go around it on the right as I couldn't see past the stall, so I sorta just went straight at the chicken. It was slow enough for it to move out of the way, and it wasn't gonna do much damage based on my speed. Well, that chicken definitely runs out of the way and gets out of my path as planned, but it runs to my right further into the road, instead of to the left where it was closer to the grazing area. I think you know what's about to happen. Right as that happens, a car speeds around the blind corner towards me, and bam, I just hear a distant popping noise and it runs over the chicken. The car just kept going, and so did I back to my hotel. I did not even stop. I didn't think much of it at first, to be honest, but I told my friend about how I caused the chicken to get run over, and he told me that I could get in a lot of trouble if the people who owned the chicken found out. Like, I might have to pay them some money or something like that. Thinking back, no one was really around though to see it, so nothing really happened after that regarding the chicken. As he was riding back to our hotel the next day, he saw the chicken lying still in the middle of the road. So he stopped his motorcycle, got off, and pulled the chicken onto the side of the road. This is a scary story for a few reasons, not just because the chicken is no longer with us, rest in peace, but more so that some of the laws in some of these countries can be really strange if you're not from that country and if you don't know the specific rules associated with it. Like in some countries, it's illegal to spit on the ground. You could get in trouble and spend up to like 30 days in prison. In some countries, certain gestures or the way you do things or say things can get you in a lot of trouble. So him scaring this chicken into the middle of the road and basically it getting hit by a car that didn't stop, by the way, which is super rude, could have gotten him in a lot of trouble. Whenever you're traveling abroad, you gotta be careful and know exactly what you can and can't do, because you could potentially find yourself in a really sketchy situation and not know how to get out of it. Overall, I'm really sad that we lost this chicken, but at the end of the day, it's not the original poster's fault, and all you can do is just try to do better next time. Today, I messed up by letting my toxic family back into my life. They're completely unaware that I won the lottery several years prior. So some backstory. I'm the youngest of 5 children, and we grew up in absolute poverty. My mom loved having kids, but she didn't work, and dad didn't make enough to support everyone. I was poor enough that I remember as an 11 or 12-year-old receiving a single plastic slinky and being absolutely thrilled I got anything. Growing up with that kind of family was rough. Parents got divorced, and dad lived locally, but didn't really do much to try and be a dad. Just support financially when legally necessary. And he let it slip once to me that he never really wanted kids. He just loved my mom, and she wanted kids, so we went along with it. Obviously, with this kind of dynamic and the lack of resources, home life wasn't great prior to the divorce. I was helping fix drywall at like age 5 because we could only afford to live in crumbly, run-down houses. I remember stripping paint with a steamer and putty knife at about 6 or 7, and only learned recently that the house had lead paint. My oldest siblings did even more housework and probably inhaled a bunch of lead dust and toxic substances. Couple that with the emotional abuse of our parents, and they didn't grow up to be good people. My oldest brother had anger issues and got kicked out of college for fighting people. He also got arrested a few times for stuff involving theft or violence. My oldest sister struggled with substance abuse, got arrested a few times for it, and even ended up involuntarily committed for 72 hours once. She's doing a lot better nowadays, but still she's an unpleasant person. My next brother went on to just be an employee at a large chain store, where I think he might be a manager now. All 3 still live in the impoverished town we grew up in. My next sister and I are close enough in age that we're very similar. We both joined the military to escape the poverty trap of our hometown. I joined the army and she went to the Navy. Even at about the same time, while in the service, we both pieced together a bunch of things about our siblings and parents that made everything clear. It was like we both had half of a connect the dot puzzle that made no sense. And when put together, the outcome was a big sign that said, "Everyone in this family is awful." She confronted them about it after her military contract ended and kind of got dragged back into the drama all over again. She moved to a city near the hometown about 1 hour away and started working there right away. I cut everyone else out of my life. I haven't spoken to most of them in years, and the others are cursory or obligatory in nature. After my contract ended, I started college using the GI Bill, which not only paid for my tuition, but also paid a monthly housing stipend so I can focus on my school. My family hated that I was basically getting free schooling. I could never explain that it meant giving up 4 years of my life for active duty, and I had to drill every month in the reserves, and part of my body is permanently wrecked. To them, it's just an unfair advantage. While in school, I had a habit of buying a lottery ticket every month when the GI Bill hit my account. It was borderline superstitious, as I never had any notion of winning anything, because I remember a statistic once that said men in California have a higher chance of actually being Brad Pitt than winning the lottery. During my final semester of college, I did end up winning the lottery. I didn't win screw you money by any means, if you know what I mean. I won the type of money where you could pay cash for a 3-bedroom, 2-bath house with 0.36 acres in the country, where housing prices were below the national average, and then have nothing left. Yes, it's specific because that's exactly what I did. I never told any of my family, including my cool older sister, because as much as I love her, she would almost be obligated to tell the rest of the family. The purchase of that home happened when I was 25, so 11 years ago at this point. Since then, I got married and I had a kid, and I have had an all-around nice and pleasant life. About a year ago, my oldest sibling was going to be near where I lived for work, and she wanted to visit so she could meet my daughter and catch up. Against better judgment, I agreed, because my wife wanted to know more about my family, who she had never met before. My sister was staying with us for 3 days before she had to go for her work stuff, and spent the whole time just reminiscing and catching up. At one point during dinner on the second night, she asked about what mortgage must be like, since she paid $900 for rent or something much similar, and with no yard. My wife scoffed briefly, unaware that my family didn't know about my financial windfall. My sister, though a troubled individual, is no dummy, and picked up on that. Her tone shifted from casual to serious and asked, "What does that mean?" I'm not great at lying, improvising, or doing anything without excessive planning. I sat stupefied while trying to figure out what to say before my wife said, "Well, he used his winnings to just buy the house," thus setting off the chain reaction of questions that culminated with my sister finding out I had made 6 figures for free while attending college for free and getting rent paid while not doing anything. She was absolutely livid and left for a hotel. About 2 hours later, the phone calls began from every member of my family, accusing me of cutting them off so I wouldn't have to share this gift from God. The sister I even got along with got angry at me for keeping a secret, but she understood that it would have put her in a bad position of lying to the whole family. My phone, email, and wife's phone began blowing up for the next week while family tried to get money from me, not understanding that there wasn't any left. They kept saying that they're about to file for bankruptcy because of debt, and I could save the family, but I'm just being selfish. After a week, lawyers got involved because my family started threatening to sue for damages for everything wrong in our family, and in fact, they eventually did file. Every single thing that could even remotely justify going to small claims court or a full lawsuit was brought up. They even added up an estimated amount of gas money I borrowed since starting to drive at 16, with verbal agreements to pay you back later, taking into account inflation and current gas prices. Everything together they asked for would have just been short of buying another house in cash. I'm able to post about this now because I was about to get 90% of it dropped for being absolutely ridiculous, and showing that a lot of their claims occurred during a time when I had no contact with them. Thank you, phone and email records. The remaining 10% of what they wanted was stuff that happened when I was 17 or 18 years old, like denting one of their cars or injuring them when I threw an empty beer bottle and leaving a permanent scar where glass cut them. After lawyer and court fees plus paying damages, I lost a bit more than $10,000 to my family. The stress from the legal battle affected me at work, and when it got out that I was being sued by my family after winning a lottery, all my coworkers began asking for help financially. It got bad enough that I had to request a transfer to a different branch where nobody knew me. Now I'm having to sell my home I bought where my daughter was growing up in and move to a more expensive city were the other branches, all because I let my family back into my life. This story is crazy. This person has incredibly toxic people in their life. I completely understand why they cut off these people from their life and decided to try and live their own life. You think you have a great setup, you can live your life and do your own thing, but this person's family dragged them down so far. I mean, how entitled do you possibly have to be to try and stake claim over someone else's house, home, and money? This is a classic classic case of somebody's too lazy to try and change their future, so they go after somebody who actually has. And it doesn't matter that it's because of lottery winnings. They still worked very hard to get where they're at in life, and they did everything they could to get away from these toxic people. I'm so sorry they had to go through this, and I hope they find the best of luck moving forward in a new town, in a new city, away from those toxic, entitled, terrible people. Am I a weirdo for wanting to bring my puppeteering act to a festival? I am a 27-year-old man and also a puppeteer, and I have been since I was in middle school. Before the virus, I was a regular fixture to a local festival where I was joined by my sidekick. He's a Muppet-style monster, think Cookie Monster for scale, and we made regular appearances at the festival for roughly 5 consecutive years. We walk around, visit vendors, talk to kids, have photos made, and we've been announcers for the live bands in the past. Point is, we've done this a long time and people know us and love us. The festival is coming back for the first time since the virus hit, and of course I want to bring him. It'll be the first time we've been in the crowd in at least 2 years. I was talking to my mother and saying how I was going to the festival and was hoping to bring my monster and do our whole little shtick. She replied, "Why would you bring a puppet to a festival?" Now, I love my mom, but that really hurt my feelings. I tried explaining how we've been doing it for years and we're practically a fixture of the event, but she basically shut me down and said things like, "That's weird," or "That just looks strange." I feel really insulted, and now I don't want to bring him even though I know people will ask when they see me without him. Now I'm starting to feel like this activity that I'm passionate about is really weird. Nobody's asked me to bring him, but after years of doing it, I kind of feel weird not showing up with him. Like I'd be disappointing my audience, especially the kids. Am I weird? Is my mom right? How do I stop feeling this way? My man, you are not weird. We need more weird people with puppets going around festivals making people laugh and smile. It is not strange to be a puppeteer. If Jim Henson were here today, he'd be saying the exact same thing. Jim Henson, for those of you who don't know, is like the guy behind the Muppets. So 100% do it. Bring your Muppet, bring your little monster, go to that festival, and you talk to every single person you see and you make them smile. And the best part about it is nobody's asking you to do it, so they will have no idea that this is exactly what they wanted. They wanted some guy to go around with a puppet and make some funny jokes and get to know people. It's fun. It's a festival. It's better than showing up by yourself and disappointing people who are expecting you to bring that. You clearly have a draw behind this. You've been doing this for years. Who cares what your stinky mother thinks? Do your thing. Don't let anybody tell you what you can or can't do. This is your art and you love it, and other people are gonna love it too. An insane Karen tries to sue my parents for over $1 million. This story happened in the mid-90s, spanning 2 years. I was 6 or 8 years old, so the details aren't fully known, but the story gets told by my parents every so often. When I was 6, we were in my dad's car coming home from work or daycare. I can't quite remember. My brother was about 10. We were in the back seat of a 2-door Mazda. We were fighting in the back seat while my dad was stopped at a red light. He turned around to swat at both of us, again, early 90s, to make us stop. His foot slipped off the brake and we rolled forward into the car in front of us. My dad says my brother asked if we hit something. Both cars pulled off in the shopping center, and this lady went into full hysterics, demanding an ambulance. And when the paramedics arrived, she insisted that she needed a neck brace and a backboard. My dad saw the writing on the wall and stayed behind to make sure the police got his full side of the story. And then the first thing he did was call the insurance company to tell them what happened. They had people out the next day to take pictures of the car and take my dad's statement. Sure enough, not long after comes the lawsuit. $1 million for crippling this woman for life. Thus began a 2-year-long battle with lawyers over the stupid fender bender. I know it took a long time, and that my dad often ranted about how she rejected the first settlement offer of about $30,000 and then later rejected the second offer of $50,000 because she was a greedy, lying, terrible person and wanted a full court hearing. By the time we got to court, my parents had separated, but since they were married at the time, they were both on the hook for the money if they lost. I was too young to go to the hearing and was promised it would be long and boring anyway, so I had to stay at a daycare. My brother got to go though. It was long and boring right up until Karen herself got up on the witness stand and gave her version of the supposed wreck. First off, she used a walker and wore a neck brace to get to the stand. And then, to sum it up, she was innocently waiting at a red light when she checked her rearview mirror and saw a great big white truck barreling towards her, and she just knew there was no way it would stop in time, so all she could do was brace for impact and pray. My parents perked up at that, as did their lawyers. They got out a set of pictures of a blue two-door Mazda and showed them to the woman and asked if she recognized the car in the photographs. She said no. The lawyer showed the photographs to the judge and jury and explained that this was the car that struck Karen. Pictures were taken within 24 hours of the accident. The jury did an audible spit take. When the dust settled, not only did Karen not get her $1 million, but she ended up having to pay the attorney's fees, lost wages, and daycare costs incurred as a result of the lawsuit. And that was how we got a free trip to Disney. Some people are absolutely insane and they will do whatever it takes to try and get money from someone else. Car accidents are absolutely one of the biggest ones. This Karen really thought she was going to try and pull one past the judge and jury, pretending like she's crippled for life and using some kind of walker. It is so funny that she got caught in her own lie, and it is absolutely wonderful that she had to pay back for all the miserable lies that she tried to spring on this family. It's wonderful to see that this story ended up being in their favor, and I hope they enjoyed Disneyland. An entitled Karen gets banned from a dollar store after freaking out because her kids stole from the store. A little bit of backstory. I'm an armed security officer at an outdoor mall, so I get a call from a dollar store where everything is $1. You know the one. Anyway, the manager calls me and says that a minor attempted to steal in the store and the mother is causing a scene with other kids present. So I arrive and walk in and see 8 kids and one mother all yelling. So I raise my voice and loudly exclaim, "Quiet right now." Well, Mama Karen turns around and tells me not to yell at her kids. I tell her that I apologize, but I couldn't follow what was going on, and would she kindly explain what was going on. She then proceeds to get an attitude and say that the store manager accused her child of stealing. I look to the manager, whom I've known for years, and say, "Ma'am, is this accurate?" She responds, "Yes, sir." The child, pointing to the child, has a candy bar and a drink. So I look to the mother and ask if she can ask the child to empty his pockets. She refuses. So in order to at least resolve the situation, I ask her and the children to step outside the store so that they won't be bothered by the staff or the store. In all honesty, this was just to get them out of the store. So now that we are outside, I get a text from the manager on our work phone that we carry, and it is a request to ban them from the store. This is something I was going to do anyways. However, I decided to take it a step further and ban them from the entire mall complex. I had the paperwork with me to do this and begin writing out the property ban and trespass warning for her. I ask her name for my report so that I can take it up with corporate, and she seems very happy at that and gives me her name. I put her information in my report and the property ban and trespass paperwork. Just to clarify, I do have to notify property management of what I had to do, so I did not lie to her. So I tear off her a copy of the trespass and property ban, and she explodes at me. "You can't do this. You don't have the authority to do this. I'm calling the police. My husband works there." So I politely tell her to make the call, and I will be glad to tell them when they arrive. She makes the call, and about 10 minutes later, the police arrive with several officers. I explain to the sergeant that has arrived of what is going on, and he looks bewildered and says, "She is throwing a fit over that? Seriously?" He then goes to her and asks for her side. She starts waving the paper that I gave her in the officer's face and says, "This is illegal. He can't do this." So the officer looks at the paper and then at her and says with the most polite and charming smile that is hiding a laugh, "Ma'am, this is valid, and according to this, you are banned from the property." She screams and says, "But how will I do my kids' shopping?" The officer tells her she will have to go to another mall, possibly 45 minutes away. She huffs and calls her husband, who arrives shortly. Comes to find out he does indeed work for the police department and speaks to me and looks at the paperwork. He then looks at his wife and says, "I will see you at home. We're going to talk about this." She then leaves crying with the kids. The husband turns to me and shakes my hand and tells me that he's sorry for causing trouble. 2 weeks later, I got an award from my company and the owners of the mall over the incident. First thing that comes to mind after the story is, what did the Karen actually think was going to happen? Her kid was caught in the act of trying to steal from a dollar store. Like, this is the least of her worries. The cops could have shown up and had them arrested for petty theft. So in all honesty, it sounds like her and the kids are getting off easy. And it's great that she tried to wave around that her husband's a cop, because even when he did show up after all this went down, he still reassured the security guard and the cops that she was in the wrong. It's unfortunate it had to go this way, but karma is so delicious in moments like this, because Karens like this will never learn unless it's absolutely shown in their face that they are in the wrong. So good on the security guard for doing his job, and good on the husband for saying that he's sorry, because there's no way that guy would have gotten a sorry from that Karen. My mother stole $32,000 from me. To set everything up first, when I was 8 years old, my mother set up a joint account with hers so that I could put money in and she could too when I was younger, and never got around to separating them. So I started saving money for university in 2017 after I got my real first job, and all my money went into that account. Only she could see the balance, which I liked because I didn't want to know how much I had, because then I would want to spend it. I stayed back an extra year before I was supposed to go to save money as well. Now, my mother is the type of person who never wants to work again for the rest of her life. It comes time for me to get an apartment weeks before I'm supposed to go off to school. I check my account, and guess what? There's less than $1,000 in there. After years of saving, it's all whittled down to $1,000. So I ended up not being able to go to university because my money was gone right before I was supposed to start. My mother had told me the account had been hacked and she would call the bank and have it fixed. I sat down with a bank manager and we both confirmed that it was my mother who had taken all of the money out of the account. And this wasn't even all at once, but it has been happening almost every day since I had my first paper route when I was 14 years old. She stole a total of $32,000, and her excuse was that since my girlfriend lived with us, that she couldn't afford the bills. Yet when I showed her the paper evidence that she'd been stealing for way longer than the girlfriend had been there, she had nothing to say. My stepdad didn't care about the money either, because at least her half of the bills were paid. I haven't talked to them in 2 years, and don't think I ever will again. I wasted years of high school working full-time to save money for school, and then it had ripped out right underneath me. This is a horrific situation. Imagine working so hard all through high school to try and save something up for a college education, only to then have your mom rip it away from you piece by piece without you knowing. I can't believe that this person wasn't checking their account. I find it so difficult to believe, though, that this person did not check their account. I mean, I know they're just a kid, but I would definitely want to know how much money is in there so I can keep track of it, so I can see how much I need to save up. I feel so bad for the original poster, and I do not blame them for cutting their family out of their life after this. My entitled mom tries to steal my disability payments behind my back. I've been seeing a therapist after my dad died suddenly from a heart attack some years back. I was still living with my parents, so I was at home when it happened. I was the one who called 911 and called my older siblings to let them know something was wrong. A few months passed, and I go to my first appointment with my new doctor. While filling out a survey, I explained that I wasn't sure how to answer their questions about my mental health. I then explained what happened, and they asked me if I want to talk to someone. I said yes. We spent a few weeks speaking, and then I started to go to therapy. An important note, I was in my mid-20s when all this happened. I was an adult. I've been struggling to find employment, and my therapist helped me find an employment counselor. It was the winter of 2018-2019, and still no luck with employment. My mom asked if I could be put on disability benefits for anxiety. She's looking for the Social Security payments since I was struggling to find a job. While anxiety was a part of my diagnosis, it's never been to the point where I can't go out in public. I bring this up to my therapist, and she didn't think we'd get anywhere with that. I told my mom this, and I thought that was the end of it. Fast forward to 2019. I noticed there's an appointment on our calendar in the kitchen. My mom's the type to write down what the appointment's for, but this didn't have that. Instead, I just had my name and the time of the appointment. I asked her about this, and my mom made it sound like we were doing some sort of family therapy session. Needless to say, I would have rather eaten my own foot than do this. At that point in my life, my therapy sessions had become a place where I can express my feelings, and it was a safe place overall. It was a place for me to express myself without someone else being there and taking what I have to say the worst possible way. I didn't want to talk about my feelings with anyone in my family. The day of the appointment arrives and the person comes. She was there to assess me to see if I was eligible for disability. I had no knowledge of this and I did not consent. I pointed this out, but the assessment continued. I pointed out that my mom made it sound like some sort of counseling session. Her response was along the line of, "Well, it kind of is." What I think happened was my mom ran into an older cousin of mine, and by older, I mean my cousin's youngest child is a few years older than me. My cousin's middle child had some kind of mental handicap. I don't know what the specifics are. I just know it's to the point where it's highly unlikely that he can ever live alone. She likely talked to my cousin about how someone could get disability benefits, took the matter into her own hands from there, and went behind my back to set up this appointment. So there we are, my mom trying to cheat the system for money, and I honestly felt like I was going to faint. I was that mortified that she did this behind my back. Maybe I should have made more of a scene and made it clear to the woman that I did not consent to any of this. But I didn't doubt for a second that I'd be treated as the one in the wrong by my mom and siblings, even though it was my trust and privacy that had been completely violated. At my next appointment with my therapist, I honestly think the woman who had assessed me spoke to her, so my therapist already knew what was going on. What she thought happened was that the woman who came over thought I was a minor or skipped a step in the procedure. The point is, the woman who came over messed up. I know I should probably be mad at her too, but I always found I was more forgiving of this. My therapist did help me feel a little bit better by confirming what I already suspected, that this wasn't going to go the way my mom hoped. And it didn't. Sometime later, I got a letter saying that I was not eligible for disability benefits. My mom said she was going to try to make an appeal, but my therapist assured me that she could try, but not only was she grasping at straws, she wasn't going to get anywhere without my permission this time. As far as I can tell, she got to blissfully move on while I'm still double checking with anyone, my therapist, my employment counselor, my doctor's office, and anyone in between to make sure something like this will never happen again. It is bonkers to me that this actually happened. The fact that his mom tried to sign him up for disability payments just to then have the goal of taking those disability payments and using them for herself or something is so unbelievably unethical and illegal, I can't even begin to explain it. Anybody can deal with mental health issues and have some kind of hiccup that causes them to have problems in their lives, but to have someone go on your behalf and try and sign you up for disability just to try and take your payments is appalling. I feel so bad for this person, and I really hope they find the help that they need. And if I were them, I would cut my mom out of my life and say no more, no thanks, and goodbye. This next story came from the Am I the Jerk podcast subreddit. If you'd like to submit your own stories, check out the links in the description. Am I the jerk for blocking a group of friends who ghosted me for not moving out with them? This happened in 2021. 3 former friends and I had planned to move out together. We had found an awesome place just outside of the main city for only about $1,200 a month for rent. I had been saving up and thought I was ready. We signed a renter's agreement, pulled together the deposit and everything. Right after that, I experienced an hours cut at work and some family issues that caused me to back out at the last minute because of my worsening financial situation. My friend from high school, we'll call him friend 1, was super mad about this, but told me that he understood. Prior to this, I'd become involved in a motorcycle club my parents were members of, and I ended up becoming a member myself. Spring signaled the beginning of riding season, and I was on the committee in charge of the spring open rider venue. From February to April, I was helping plan out the venue with the social members, while the full patches planned the routes and stops, only taking a break from preparations for my 21st birthday at the end of March, which I invited the club and all my friends, including my 3 former friends I was going to move in with. It also so happened that the spring opener landed on one of my friends' 21st birthday, and I had to politely decline to go because I had other obligations with this club I was a part of. Some of my former friends were upset, but seemed to understand. However, things changed as summer got closer. During the summer, I was out with the club practically every weekend that my new job permitted that I had off, or that I requested off if it was a major event. While I was more financially stable, going from 25 to 26 hours at my old job to 35 to 40 with my new job, I still had to pay club dues. The 3 friends were badgering me to come hang out with them and see the apartment, which was hard to make time for between club and work. So not thinking about it, I sent a screenshot of my work schedule, which is scheduled 3 weeks out so we could coordinate with days off so we could get together and hang out. This was a big mistake. August rolls around and I have continued to send regular updates of my schedule to try and hang out. Without so much of a response from my 2 friends, my 3rd friend, bless her, was acting as the medium between them and was the only one I could get a response from. I messaged her privately to reiterate I was sending my schedule and ask how they were doing. She said there was a bit of a rift with me not being able to come see them or the apartment, and that she would talk to the other 2 and try and get them to come back to me. Finally, towards the end of August or early September, I had had enough of the one-sidedness and removed myself from our group chat and blocked them on social media, and politely relayed to the person that's actually talking to me with these friends that I would be removing them all from my social media. I told her that while I was thankful for her help, I didn't want them to contact me through her, and that I would be removing her as well, and she completely understood. End of September comes and I wake up to a text sent at about 4:30 in the morning from an unknown number with an obscure message. This was promptly followed by friends on different platforms who had also also texted me about the same time. Obviously, since I didn't have the number saved in my contacts, I asked the question of, who is this? It was one of the friends. And this particular friend had made a Facebook post asking people to contact me since he couldn't get a hold of me on any other platforms that I had blocked him on. I was livid. Not only was I livid that he did this and gotten my friends involved, I was also livid that he actually had the audacity to ask me why I blocked him. I told him exactly why. I told him that him as well as his other friend were being rude and that I was tired of being ignored and made to feel bad for not being able to hang out. He then proceeded to tell me he wasn't active because he was busy with work and had other things going on. He then told me in summary that I was a bad friend for not making time for him and the other guy, and that I couldn't make time for them on their 21st birthday because I didn't care enough to make time for something that important, which I laughed at since neither of them showed up for my 21st birthday. I also made the comment that being busy with work wasn't an excuse since he got mad that I had obligations outside of work and family, and that he knew I had a responsibility to this club I was a part of. Also, because we had an entire hour-long conversation about it the night I got vested and patches. They also said that sending screenshots of my schedule felt like a punch in the face because they felt like hanging out had to be on my time and my time only. To a degree, I get that, but I also don't have a consistent schedule. Even after I tried to explain that my days off weren't consistent and that sending my schedule was to help find a common day off, he just wasn't having it. I finally got fed up and told him to have a nice life, that I honestly wish him the best, and that I hopefully someday we can be friends again. So am I the jerk for blocking a group of friends that ghosted me because I didn't want to move out with them? This is a tough one for me personally because I don't think this guy's actually the jerk, but at the same time, I can kind of see where the friends are coming from. Like, I can see how it would be a punch in the face if you just kept getting screenshots of somebody's schedule instead of them actually trying to make the effort to meet up and hang out. But on the other hand, the way that the three friends were acting is absolutely inappropriate. They sent their third friend to go and try and mediate between them without addressing any of the concerns. It seems like all of this just got blown out of proportion and nobody had any idea what anyone was doing. So yeah, I think both sides are kind of jerks in this situation, and hopefully they can try and find some resolution to it. But from the sounds of it, it doesn't look like they're going to be friends anytime soon, and this might be a lost cause. I found out my boyfriend is going to propose to me while snooping around through his phone. I'm 19 years old and I struggle really bad with overthinking. Today, I was overthinking that my boyfriend was cheating or talking to other women on his phone. When he went to bed, I searched through his phone, which he knows I do and doesn't have a problem with it. While looking through the recent chat with his female friend, I read that he planned on proposing in a few months, and he sent the 2 rings he was looking at. Last week, he hinted at supposedly doing something that will greatly help my overthinking, according to him. And I assumed that he was proposing since we've been dating for 2 years and about 6 months. But it still feels wrong that I already know his plans and basically ruined the surprise aspect. I don't want to tell him and ruin the fun or the romance part of all of this though. I don't know what to do. Do I keep it a secret or do I tell him the truth? Oh, this is a rough one. I think it's a great sign that your boyfriend is so open and he obviously doesn't care if you look through his phone because clearly he's not cheating. But it's super unfortunate that the one thing you found is the one thing you probably didn't want to find, and that is that he is going to propose. So yeah, you're kind of stuck on a fence. Do you say something because you feel guilty that you found out and kind of ruined the surprise? Or do you stay quiet, play dumb, and go along with it? Honestly, I don't think you should be disappointed by this. If you love your boyfriend, then you can just be simply excited about what's happening. It can still be a surprise that he's going to propose. You could even try and reschedule whatever plan he has and not show up to the day that he's going to supposedly propose. That way he has to reschedule when he's supposed to propose, and then you don't know what's going to happen. You still know in the back of your mind that he's going to propose, but you don't know exact dates. That might be able to add some kind of spice and some fun back into it. Overall though, I hope this works out, and congratulations on getting engaged. My depressed partner doesn't do any housework. My girlfriend and I have been living together for a year, dating for 2 years. We are both suffering from depression, but I've had a lot longer to deal with it than Alice has, who's my girlfriend. Both of us go to therapy, but Alice does not want medication due to bad past experiences. I try to be there for Alice, and emotionally, she is also there for me. But when it comes to acts, I do at least 90% of the housework. I cook, clean, grocery shop, etc., along with being a full-time student. Alice is on disability leave and spends her time playing video games and binge-watching TV. I know depression is not as simple as try harder, but I'm struggling too, yet I have to force myself to do chores because someone has to do them. I try to help my girlfriend by giving her simple chores with specific instructions, but even those only get half done most of the time, and then I feel like I'm the jerk for nagging her. The biggest issue is that she forgets to feed our cat, which she agreed to get and take care care of. And she forgets to do this while I'm at school, even if I send her texts reminding her. We have had several long conversations about this, and she always feels bad, cries, and says that she'll do better, but then nothing changes. I ask how I can help. I ask her maybe would a specific chore list be good? What if we do it together? Would she like to move back in with her parents for a while? A psych ward? Maybe trying antidepressants again? But the answer is always no. It feels like she has given up and decided that she's doomed to be depressed for the rest of her life, and it will never get better. She seems to think that she's a burden and that I would be better off without her. I do understand how she feels, but it's still hard to hear. I love her with my whole heart and want to help her. I genuinely want to make this work. I try my best to be understanding and empathetic. I'm just cracking under the pressure of being responsible for the household along with my studies. I really don't want to leave her. She's the love of my life and the person I want to spend my life with. Sometimes things are better. This just feels like an extra rough patch. I'm just so exhausted and I just don't know what to do. Is there even anything I can do? It sounds like this partner has tried everything they can to try and get through to their girlfriend that they need to be more responsible. There are some things that I would personally kind of let slide if it was just me. Like, okay, you didn't do the dishes or you didn't take out the garbage, that's fine. But not feeding the cat, that is an absolute line in the sand. When another living being is dependent on you feeding them and you're not taking care of them, that's when we have a very serious problem. And that's where I would start and say, hey, if you want to live with me and if we're going to live together, we have to work together on this. That cat depends on us. We have to take care of him and do what we need to do. And then we can work from there. It sounds like possibly medication and further help could really help this person's partner. And I really hope they find the help that they need so that they can be a happy couple together. My fiance's parents have a terrible marriage, and it's starting to affect my relationship with my fiance. To keep things short, my fiance's parents have only stayed together for her, and it's created many awkward situations. Whenever I'm alone with my fiance's mother, she vents to me about her husband and how he doesn't pay any bills, never kisses or shows any love. Once my girlfriend and I get my own place, she plans to divorce him. Stuff like this constantly is what she tells me. She then turns this into a burden by telling me not to tell my girlfriend any of this. Her father is very emotionally dependent on my girlfriend, and the other day we went out for dinner and I heard him in the other room say, "Why do you always go to dinner with such and such?" That being me. "But never go out with me." A similar situation happened after we finished watching a movie, and her father complained on how she never does this with him. He tends to get very jealous and has no issue making comments right in front of me. If we come back after getting food, the first thing he says to my girl is, "Oh, you didn't get me anything." If we ever go out or even leave for a day or two, once we come back, her father comes out and acts like he's never seen her before. He'll say stuff like, "Hey baby, haven't seen you in forever," and gives her this huge bear hug where she looks super uncomfortable. Maybe this is normal, I don't know. I wasn't treated this way, nor were my sisters, but it feels very uncomfortable for me. He treats her like how I'd imagine he should be treating his wife. I get very angry how he treats his wife like garbage and my adult girlfriend like a little girl. He tends to call us whenever we're out to dinner. He has my girlfriend's location and checks it religiously. He knows what he's doing. He also calls anytime we're late. He gets super upset when she doesn't answer and guilt trips her by saying, "What if I was having a heart attack? You're the first person I'd call if my fingers would let me do it." It's an extremely awkward situation and has been getting worse as my girlfriend is getting older, and her having to talk to him only helps temporarily. Her father has threatened to stop helping out with her bills. She's a full-time student in law school and can't get 100% support, and he threatens to do this if she ever doesn't answer her calls or takes off her location on her phone. He gets very controlling, and there's a lot he said that has just freaked her out. Recently, my girlfriend and I were planning another trip, and her mother began to invite herself on it again. She went on about how she really wants to travel, while her husband sat there in silence. He refused to travel with her, but has no issue traveling with my girlfriend and I. We let her come on a trip once, and we found out very quickly that we were not compatible to travel together, and she didn't want to do much with my girlfriend, and I did. It's a really sad situation because I wish she'd just go with her husband so we don't have to actually feel guilty by saying no that she can't come. Her parents often invite me over for dinner, and they've gotten too comfortable around me to have no issues arguing in front of us, being extremely rude and calling each other names. It's a really uncomfortable situation, and I'm not really sure if there's anything I could do, and my girlfriend doesn't really have any energy to get involved anymore as it's their relationship. Honestly, I just need help. Any advice would be welcomed. Honestly, the fact that the dad is being being that financially abusive to his daughter and threatening to cut off any funds towards her going to law school simply because she doesn't answer phone calls or have her location on her phone turned on is kind of ridiculous. I mean, I can understand there being some kind of bargain or some kind of agreement between the two of them, but making uncomfortable advances at your daughter at the expense of your current marriage is really weird. I mean, she could, in all honesty, if this is such a problem, stop going to school, start working until she can get enough money to pay for it herself, and then go back to law school, but I mean, nobody really wants that. It also sounds like the original poster in this situation just needs to speak up and make their voice known. Honestly, staying silent and not saying anything about this, even just a voice of, hey, this is kind of awkward, is only going to do them a disservice moving forward. Like, imagine family get-togethers or any other kind of engagement where they're spending time together. This same behavior is going to come back, and it's going to be coming back quite often if nothing's done about it. A line in the sand needs to be made, and somebody's got to do it. At the end of the day, they're getting married and they're on the verge of starting their new life. And eventually, no one will be stalking them on their phone, and they won't have to answer calls if they don't want to. My girlfriend is spying on our neighbors, and it's driving me crazy. We've been together for a year and a half, and the relationship has been going pretty good. About 6 months ago, we had new neighbors move in, one directly across the street from us and one next to us. I started noticing a pattern almost immediately. My girlfriend started propping a couple of blinds open to make sure to have a view of their house and positions herself on the sofa so she can have a clear view. One of the neighbors has a sports car, and when she hears him drive up, she makes it a point to go outside and do anything. Take the trash out, clean out her car, do yard work, literally anything. These are things she never did before and acted like she needed to do these things right away. Just to test her reaction, I've always asked her if she ever needed help with anything while she's outside, and she tells me that she doesn't need any help and she has it under control. It's ridiculously obvious, but I've kept it to myself until recently. I didn't want to sound like a jealous or a controlling boyfriend, but I do have feelings, and being in my mid-40s, I've seen all of the yellow and red flags that can come in a relationship. Honestly, it's the sneaky and obsessive behavior that's getting to me, and honestly, it's driving me crazy. I've finally opened up to her about it, and she lost her mind. I felt gaslit, and now I'm questioning myself. Since then, though, the few blinds that she flipped to spy on the neighbors aren't flipped up anymore. Yard duties are mine again, and she is back to her old ways, but I'm left feeling like a jerk for even having to point it out to her in the first place. Did I cross a line? No, I don't think you crossed a line. I think maybe the girlfriend was just a little too obsessive about her neighbors. I mean, I think it's fine to have an honest curiosity about what your neighbors are doing, but from the sounds of it, it seems like she was being very obsessive, and it was getting a little weird. So good on him for expressing his opinion, and hopefully they work this out. I have decided to move out, and now my parents are disowning me. Last night, I talked with my parents about how I was going to move out of the house. I'm from a conservative Caribbean family, and I'm the eldest daughter. I live with them, and thankfully, I don't have to pay any bills in the house. Throughout my time there, I've managed to save up, and I'm very confident that I can live on my own. This isn't my first time moving out. A year ago, I moved out to Nashville for a job, but I came back because of an incident that occurred with an ex-roommate. So I thought it was the right thing to do to move back home, so I did that instead of staying in Nashville. My parents and I didn't talk for a while after I moved, but after the period of not talking, we were able to start again. Before last night, I thought that after that experience, they would see me as an adult who could take care of herself, which I have done, but I was horribly wrong. The conversation was about me telling them that I know they won't and don't want me to move out, but I've made up my mind. They told me about some of the money problems they had while living here in America throughout the years, and I thought that the conversation was going well. They emphasized the point that they don't want me to experience the same things that they have. My mother then says, if I'm going to leave this time, I should leave my key, clean my room, and never come back. My dad then follows her and says that he thinks that I will make the right decision, which would be to stay home and live with them in his mind. But once I told them that I understand where they're coming from, but I've made up my own mind about what to do, things quickly changed. My dad says that if I do this, that I will suffer and he won't talk to me anymore because God will be his witness. That was very painful to hear them say that. To think that I've done everything I can to avoid trouble and to keep them happy all my life. They don't trust me, and when I make a decision on my own, there's a good chance I won't see my parents again after I moved out. But I have to do what's best for me. Even though I'm not sure if this is the right thing to do, I know this is where I want to go with my life. Has anyone experienced this before? How did they deal with it? Did your parents ever come around? What do I do? The parents in this story are being completely unreasonable. Like, who would cut their kids off just because they're moving out? The fact that they reacted like that just shows that she's probably doing the right thing. It sounds like they're angry because of the loss of control. If their concern was coming from a genuine place of concern, they they wouldn't lace it with threats. It's just so weird and toxic that the dad and the mom are saying, pack up your stuff and never come back. Like, what kind of parent says that? Overall, I think the original poster is making a good decision, and I think this is going to be a move that's going to help them the best in the long run. My entitled mother tried to smoke cigarettes in my car, and I ended up having to shut her down. My mother has been smoking since she was 13 years old, and of course she had to smoke in the house when I was a child, and had no regard for me not enjoying smelling like an ashtray. So I went to school smelling like cigarettes every morning for 12 years. Moving out for college was a relief, and I hated going home for any reason because I'd have to immediately do laundry when I got back to school. She doesn't believe that her smoking is what caused my asthma, or that I have asthma at all, to be honest. But this isn't about kid me. This is actually a story from 4 years ago. I was 26 and getting married at a Ren fair in Texas. My mother lives in Massachusetts and would have to fly out. I told her months beforehand, you are not under any circumstance allowed to smoke in my car. She kind of whined and mostly blew it off like, sure. I knew she wasn't taking me seriously, but this was a hill I was ready to unalive on. The wedding gets closer, and every now and again I'd remind her, you're not smoking in my car, and she'd get all whiny about it again. Finally, she tells me she's booked her flight and that she'll get in at about 10 o'clock at night before the wedding. I was really hurt because I hadn't seen her in 2 years, and I was hoping we'd get some dinner or something, but she insisted she couldn't take the time off or leave my stepfather for too long. That's fine, whatever. And I tell her once again, you are not smoking in my car. But this time when I told her, it turned into an actual fight. My mom said, that's not fair. I said, I don't care. My car, my rules. You're not smoking in it. She goes on to explain, you can't expect me to go 5 hours on a plane without smoking and then an entire car ride back to the hotel. I end up saying, well, that's not my problem. You are not smoking in my car. I will leave you at the airport if you try. But I'm going to need a cigarette, she says. No, you don't. You can wait until you get to the hotel. Please. We hung up angry. Also, it's worth noting that my mother isn't a cosigner on my car or anything. She's never helped me pay for anything in my life. The car is under my name. She has no say in it. And she's already making my life difficult by showing up at the literal last minute before the wedding. If anyone deserves a cigarette, it's me for putting up with her garbage. Fast forward to a week before the wedding. I ask her all the pre-travel questions just to make conversation. Stuff like, have you figured out your ride to the airport? Or have you started packing? And etc. And then I approached the forbidden topic. I said, remember, you're not smoking in my car. Oh, come on. I go on to say, I don't want my car smelling like smoke. I don't even have an ashtray. She tries to reason with me by saying, I'll just roll the window down. I say, in Dallas at the end of May? No, you're not. I'm not going to sweat the entire way back to the hotel just so you can smoke. And even if I was willing to, the answer is still no. But that's too long to go without a cigarette. I look at her and I say, I do not care. If smoking is more important to you, find another way to your hotel. She says, you're being unreasonable. Give me one good reason why I can't smoke in the car. Now, again, at this point, I'm pretty upset and ready to tell her not to even bother coming. And then I remembered something. Mom, my fiance is allergic to secondhand smoke. Which is true. It just wasn't something I'd bring up to her. Oh, she says. Well, why didn't you say that earlier? Of course I won't smoke in your car if it's a health issue. So I eventually got my way, even if I had to blackmail her a little bit with the possibility of her hurting my soon-to-be wife. It makes me so angry that she has so little respect for me that smoking is more important than my wishes. This doesn't really have an epic ending. She had to have her cigarettes before she got in the car though. Okay, cool. It's not like it's the night before my wedding. I totally have time to stand in the middle of an airport parking garage while you puff on your death stick. Of course, I found out later that she didn't think it was a real wedding, which put a lot of her behavior in perspective, but that's a story for another time. Overall, this is a subject that has always kind of been brought up in my house. I've told her on multiple occasions she is not allowed to smoke in my house if she ever visits. If she wants to smoke, she can go stand on the back porch away from the house. I don't care if it's cold or raining. She's probably never going to come to visit us again. She's not allowed to smoke around my wife. In fact, when I was younger, I've never actually brought my wife home to my house because it reeks of cigarette smoke. And also, I don't want her to ever meet my stepfather. When we visit Massachusetts to visit my family, we mostly meet in public places. She's even not ever going to be allowed to smoke around her future grandchildren. And if her cigarettes mean more to her than my wishes, then I'm perfectly happy to never see her again. That is a good job for the original poster deciding to put their foot down and stop something that can be super harmful. The fact that this was even up for discussion and that this person couldn't understand where their child was coming from is actually baffling. I mean, the rule is pretty simple. When you're in someone else's car, you go under their rules. So for him to say, hey, you can't smoke in my car, that is the end of it. And if you break that rule, congratulations, you're gonna have to find another ride from the airport. You don't want to get an Uber from the airport. It's going to be expensive. Like, I understand if someone has an addiction and they're struggling to fight the urge to do something like smoking, but you absolutely need to respect somebody else's boundaries. And the original poster has it right. If his mom is actually going to choose the cigarettes over his family, then he would probably be better off with not seeing her. This next story came from the Am I the Jerk podcast subreddit. Check the links in the description if you'd like to submit your own story. Am I the jerk for defending my sister after a Karen tried to slap her? Let me start with some context. I'm 19 years old and my sister is 10. She is mute. That means that she's unable to talk. We were in a market and we were both in the market because my mom was sick. We had to buy medicine. While we were looking for medications, behind us was the crazy Karen and her daughter. Karen's daughter turned around and looked at my sister, who currently had a toy that she brought with her. The Karen's daughter talked to my sister and said, "Hey, that toy looks nice. Give it to me." But my sister couldn't answer because, well, she's a mute. So Karen's daughter got angry because my sister didn't answer her and tried to get the toy from my sister that she had, but my sister took it away. Then the Karen's daughter started crying and told her mom that my sister told her that she was ugly and stupid. So the Karen got mad and started yelling at my sister, who then started crying. That made the Karen even angrier, so she approached my sister and tried to slap her, but thankfully I grabbed her hand. Karen then fell to the ground screaming, "This woman hit me and my daughter." She then dragged her daughter to the ground. A guard ended up coming by and the Karen yelled, "I want to speak to a manager." She then began to spin on the floor with her daughter, writhing in pain supposedly. After a while, the manager appeared and the Karen said, yelling, "This woman hit me and I want her to be banned from this place." The manager said though, "Is that right, miss?" I began to explain what happened, but Karen said, "That woman is lying." That's when I looked up and I saw the cameras and I said, "Do they work?" Karen's face turned from red to pale white and then said with a voice that was almost broken but shouting, "You don't have to look at the cameras." But the manager ignored her, and after looking at the cameras for a while, the manager said, "I need you to leave this market." Karen said, "Why me? If that woman hit me and my daughter." Karen's daughter didn't end up saying anything. Karen instead said, "I don't even like this place anyways." She then grabbed her daughter and then she left. So what do you think? Am I the jerk? No, you are not the jerk. This lady sounds crazy. The fact that this lady tried to smack another girl, all because their rotten child was lying about what this girl had said, even though she can't speak, is disgusting. It's crazy to me that people can act like this in a public setting and think that it's okay. This is why having cameras and all this recording information is so valuable nowadays, so that people like this can't get away with this kind of attitude and this type of behavior. It calls them out on it immediately and there's some kind of record, so that when they start screaming on the floor that, "Oh, I've been hurt, I've been injured," you can look at the cameras and be like, nobody touched you. So no, you're not a jerk. Don't even worry about it. You did the right thing and you defended your family. Am I the jerk by being a bully in high school and beating other kids up? This is more of a cautionary tale than anything, although I'm sure someone will take delight in my well-deserved punishment, as they should. I was a bully in high school. I don't have some tragic reason behind it. I just did it. And it wasn't a, "I'm gonna take your lunch money" type of bullying. It was calling people names, punching them in the stomach kind of bullying. I was an absolute jerk, and I got what was coming for me. One of my targets became Jake. Jake became my target for several reasons. Two of them being that he was just small and skinny, and the other being that he was aloof and kind of standoffish. Not rude, just distant. And that overall just really upset me. So I would verbally abuse him, call him stupid and a loser, like I was any better. And then one day, I went too far. It shames me to talk about what I did. I got Jake after school and completely pummeled him. I nearly dislocated his arm after he tried to bite me when I pinned him to the ground. And the only thing that stopped me was that a broken arm would get him in the hospital, and that would probably mean his family would sue mine. I nearly beat him unconscious and left him crying on the ground. And the worst part is, it didn't even bother me. I beat this kid and could have ended his life, and it didn't bother me at all. About 2 days later after this, I learned that Jake had an older brother. His name was Henry, and he was about 18 years old and built like a freight train, and he hit like one too. Henry took what I did to his little brother and returned it to me tenfold. For a finishing touch of "don't mess with my brother," Henry broke my finger. My finger, even today, stands as the most intense pain I've ever felt. About 200 pounds of pure could have been a wrestler coming down and breaking my finger. He didn't even say a word during it. He just left. I did end up going to the police because my parents noticed the bruises, but I lied. I said I got mugged. And there were a lot of reasons why I lied, but mostly I was scared. And for someone who has never been afraid of anybody at this point in their life before, it was a hard shock for me. The technical reason for this being so messed up is that my finger never healed correctly, and I still have trouble bending it. The moral of the story? I was a jerk who beat up kids who didn't have a good chance of being able to fight back, and I got what was coming to me. I ended up going to therapy to deal with my anger issues, and it's an everyday battle to not go back to awful habits, but I'm a better person now. Not that it matters much. Me, quote, becoming a better person won't get rid of the damage I did to so many kids. Overall, I mess up every day. I was an awful person, and it took a guy who wanted to teach this stupid idiot who had hurt his brother a lesson to really cause him to change. But that didn't erase the damage I did. I hurt people who didn't deserve it, and I deserved what happened to me in the end. I mean, I don't know if I really need to describe it, but I think we can all agree that, yeah, the guy in this story is a complete jerk. Like, I'm really glad that they were able to move on and find some resolution and become a better person, but I wish that they were a better person in high school. As someone who did get bullied quite a bit, I just don't have a lot of sympathy for people who get what's coming to them. I mean, yeah, he deserved to have his finger broken. Maybe I'm cruel for saying that, but for what he did to this kid's brother, it's just unacceptable to me. There's already so many things to worry about in high school, but having to worry about your safety and almost being unalive because of some other jerk picking on you just because you're small and skinny is not something a kid should worry about on a daily basis. And while I do feel kind of bad that he doesn't have his finger working the proper way and he can't bend it properly, I just hope that that's an obvious and constant reminder that he needs to be a better person. And from the sounds of it, it looks like he's trying to be that better person. But in my opinion, you should be a better person today and not wish you were one several years ago. My entitled mom makes a retail worker cry. So I can't say that I don't love my mother. She can be a pretty awesome person and my biggest support, believe it or not. But it is undeniable that she is an absolute Karen whenever she's shopping. She's always that one person that finds an item with no tag or tries to haggle a price down and complains about store workers with their politeness. So, we're at a big retail store, my whole family actually, consisting of my dad, my mom, my sister who's 18, and my brother who's 15, and also myself, I'm 20. We're shopping for a bathing suit for my sister, even though it's early spring because we're California beach babes where the sun beats down on us in the summer like an oversized bully, and winter is basically just rain and a few bursts of cold wind. Nothing too serious. It's actually pretty late when we get some things to try on, and we realize that there's a rack blocking the door to the changing room. Any rational person would realize, hey, the changing rooms are closed. We should just cut our losses and either come back the next day or guess which bathing suit my sister likes best and take it home and try it on from there. My mom, of course, starts to pull the rack back to try and get it out of the way. I try and act like it was an honest mistake and say something like, hey mom, I think it's closed. She then goes on a rant about how the store is still open, so we should be able to try stuff on and make a purchase. At this point, I see a retail worker in the dressing room area, and she seems to be tagging clothing and pricing them with her phone or her device or something. It's pretty obvious she is working because the device has one of those attachments on it with a pricing scanner. I see the red flags, and I pretty much say I'm gonna go look in the decorations department, and the rest of the family scatters to the wind while I can hear my mom loudly chewing out the worker for both my mom not being allowed to use the dressing room and also for being on her phone when she should be working, supposedly. I'm in the decorations section for a while with my sister. We're both just exchanging looks and not saying much. Then my mom calls my sister over, and the whole Target squad seems to have centralized in the changing room area. Me being the curious little child that I am, I follow her. The retail worker that I had seen earlier was sitting on a chair crying as two other employees were comforting them. My mom was triumphantly holding the bathing suits in her hand and grabbed my sister to the changing rooms. It was completely embarrassing because it didn't take a genius to see that my mother had raised you-know-what for this specific moment. In the car, she didn't even seem to have any remorse. In the end, she got what she wanted, but at least I know that it was wrong and that I will not be following in her footsteps. Wow, this mom sounds like an absolute Karen. I mean, who just goes off and tries to make a retail worker cry simply because they were doing their job and blocking off something? Like, honestly, who knows why those changing rooms were like, I don't know, locked down. They probably had a legitimate reason they were closed. Someone could have had an accident, or maybe they threw up in there, and then suddenly you're moving things away and then you're gonna go step in it. I've always had the philosophy that you just be kind to those around you, especially people in retail. They have the hardest job on earth because they have to put up with so much garbage. Like, honestly, you can ask anybody who's worked a cashier or who's worked in any kind of food service or customer service situation. You have some of the craziest people that come up to you and say some of the craziest things. I feel so bad for the worker that was sitting there crying in a chair while this Karen was just walking around like it's nothing. Like, how terrible of a person do you have to be to act like that? Overall though, I think we can all agree that the lady in this story is absolutely out of line and she desperately needs to do better in life. My entitled parents got mad because I tipped the pizza delivery person. This happened the other day. My parents are not from the US and tipping culture isn't much of a thing in their home country, but I grew up here in the US and always tip when it's expected or hoped for by the person doing their services. Anyway, I almost never get a pizza delivered. I always prefer to pick it up at the restaurant, but I was feeling very lazy and decided to order a delivery. The pizza driver shows up. I signed the receipt as I had paid over the app with my bank card and gave them a cash tip. I gave them $5 for the tip since my order was $15 total and the restaurant is only 8 minutes away from my house. Anyway, my parents saw me give him $5 and immediately asked why I gave him cash when I told them I had already paid for it. I explained that you're supposed to tip a delivery person and that person who delivered the food was nice and polite, so they definitely earned the tip. They then proceeded to go on a rant on how I'm not smart with my money, how they should decide what I spend my money on, and how I'm an idiot for tipping. They even said pizza delivery people should get better jobs if they're going to rely on tips. And even worse, here's the kicker. I work at a dine-in restaurant. I receive tips too, yet they don't ever seem to have a problem with people tipping me at work. Anyway, my parents have always been like this, wanting to control my finances despite the fact that I work full-time and pay rent as well. Yeah, I will never understand why other countries get upset that Americans tip people who give service of some kind. Like, if I go to a haircut place and the person does a good job, besides their normal fee, I'm gonna pay them a little bit extra. That person has my look and my livelihood in their hands. I don't want to have a bad haircut. And if they do a good job, I'm gonna tip them. If I'm at a restaurant and someone gives me good food and they provide excellent service and they're tentative and there for me, I'm gonna give them a good tip. Sometimes these people don't make very good money. And while the system, I completely agree, is absolutely skewed against them, it also gives good opportunities to earn a lot of money. Probably not a lot, but at least I can provide some semblance of a paycheck for them. I remember when I worked as a waiter and sometimes I would get absolutely nothing. And I can't tell you how demoralizing and depressing that was. So the moral of the story is, just tip your pizza delivery guy. They will be so happy that you did it and you'll probably make their day. My girlfriend is joining a sorority in college and I don't know what to think of it. This is our second time getting back together after a breakup. And to be honest, we've had a messy past together. We've never cheated on each other, but we both just grew up a lot and decided to get back together. We've known each other for 2 years. Overall, I definitely can't say it was her fault for how things ended up. Anyways, we're both going to the same university next year, and she hinted the idea of joining a sorority, and I definitely overreacted and told her I was very uncomfortable with that idea, just because of the gruesome culture of Greek life that I'm honestly not a big fan of. She told me that she wouldn't go to very many parties, and most of the time she would try to bring me with her, which I respect. She wanted to keep an open line of communication. She also told me she wouldn't drink very much if I wasn't there, which I do have a hard time believing. I know people make horrible decisions when they're wasted, and she has a tendency to do some pretty dumb things, like being loud or disrespectful or destructive, but she assures me she won't go to Greek parties. She hasn't completely decided if she is or is not going to join the sorority, but I feel like it will just destroy our relationship, and she'll turn into some crazy wasted person, and that her being in a sorority is just gonna break us apart. She also promised me she would never go to any mixers or formals without me. I do trust her, but I just can't help but worry about if she actually does go through and join one. I just don't know how things will be. I'll be living in my own apartment and she'll be in a dorm with a roommate and promises to spend a lot of nights with me throughout the week and promises that I'll be the one picking her up from every party she goes to without me. I have been pretty overdramatic since I figured out she's been thinking about this, and she's handled it well considering how big of a jerk I've been, but I just really don't like Greek life. But my views on it very well may be twisted. We are, after all, going to a pretty big in-state school where Greek life is quite prevalent. I guess what I'm mainly worried about is her cheating on me when she's wasted or out of control with some frat guy. But if she stays true to her word, I won't have to worry about that, right? I'm guessing most frat guys hook up with girls after the parties and not while everyone's there. At least that's what I hope. I don't know. It's just a lot for me to handle. I do trust her, but I have a hard time trusting her to a point, especially when she's wasted around other guys. And honestly, I just don't trust other guys around her and them having the opportunity to take advantage of her when she's vulnerable. What should I do? This is a tough one because I can understand where he's coming from, but like at the end of the day, this is her decision. The original poster also needs to know that not all sororities are bad. I mean, don't get me wrong, there's some messed up stuff that's happened in the past for for other sororities, and I totally recognize that there's some bad eggs out there, but I think as long as she's careful and aware of her surroundings and makes correct choices, that this really could be an uplifting experience. And it sounds like the guy wants to be involved, so I don't think there's any harm in trying at least. As long as you're careful and you stay loyal to your relationship, a lot of benefits can come from a sorority and even in some cases a fraternity. I get that it's not for everybody, but I don't think there's any harm in trying it. This guy also says that they've only been together again since their last breakup for 3 months. So it's understandable where there's hesitation and where he doesn't completely trust her. But to me, it sounds like he's just being paranoid as opposed to this being from some place where there's actual legitimate concern. I think he's probably just afraid that he's going to lose his girlfriend in all honesty. But what do you think? Leave a comment down below. What would you do in this situation? My entitled Karen sister invades my life during a visit, says terrible things about me and my wife, and then calls back demanding that I apologize to her. So to set the scene, I am a soldier in the United States Army, so I don't get to see my family back home often, and we have this thing called staff duty, where we basically make sure soldiers don't burn down the barricades, and it's all for a 24-hour shift. I had just gotten home to my wife, and I was getting ready to sleep due to not sleeping for a whole day and night, and of course I got a phone call from my sister saying that she wants to fly in. Me and my wife were dealing with less than subpar roommates, along with a landlord threatening an eviction notice. Later that day, I fell asleep and talked to my wife about what my sister talked to me about, and we agreed to try and talk to her about coming in at a later time when me and my wife find a new place to live and have our lives situated at the time, as we were super stressed out and are currently dealing with some financial issues. My entitled sister still decided that she was going to fly out and visit me and my wife, so wholeheartedly we agreed to let her stay in our apartment on the couch. It wasn't ideal, but it's what we had. Our apartment is absolute garbage. Honestly, the whole building needs to come down. No matter how spotless me and my wife made the apartment, there are still roaches coming from our neighbors. Anyways, the night my entitled sister flies in, me and my wife made a plan to see the new Harry Potter movie, and we had already bought the tickets, and to include my entitled sister, we bought her a ticket as well. Fast forward from normal catching up conversation, and I mentioned to my sister that me and my wife were going to take her to see the new Harry Potter movie. My entitled sister then scuffs up her nose and complains about being tired and says, I don't like Harry Potter anyways, and I don't want to go. I want to take a nap. Reluctantly, we run her to our apartment and let her take a nap. The time zone is weird where we lived compared to everywhere else, so me and my wife understood that she was probably just jet lagged. We lay out the air mattress we keep for guests and brought out pillows and blankets, and me and my wife enjoyed our date night as follows. The next morning, my entitled sister wakes up at 6 in the morning and knocks on our bedroom door. I immediately wake up suddenly and put on a pair of shorts and ask if everything's all right. My entitled sister then proceeds to try and rush me to get dressed because she had so many plans that she had not discussed with me or my wife. Keep in mind also, it's been 4 years since I've seen my sister, so my wife wanted me and her to hang out while she packs more for moving out. I told my sister I just worked a 24-hour shift recently and that I hadn't slept much due to packing and trying to move. At first she's calm and even says sorry and lets me sleep. However, once I'm awake, I'm fully awake, like for the entire day. So I shower, shave, and put on some comfy clothes to show my sister around the army base and also take care of an errand and let her look at the surrounding bases. We even went out and got something to eat, and at least she paid for her own meal. Around noon, I told my sister I needed to go home for a few hours to take a nap and help my wife pack. And in all honesty, God bless that beautiful woman, because I work a lot and she's done so much in the apartment. My entitled sister immediately gets upset. She says, but I wanted to get a matching tattoo with you. I say, I'm sorry, but my wife needs help at home. I don't know how you or your husband's marriage work, but me and my wife usually try to do everything together. And we're introverts, so this is honestly the most we've been out in a while. My sister says, well, maybe I should tell Grandma and Grandpa that you and your wife are living in a filthy house and that your wife is lazy. And again, to reiterate, our apartment was really dirty from the trashy people we were legitimately in the middle of moving out. And she also visited us unexpectedly. And my beautiful wife, once again, honest to God, works her butt off when I can't come home to help. So I said, all right, let me go home and grab something and tell my wife. Mind you, this was all after listening to her complain about the tattoos for the whole morning as I was giving her a tour of the military bases. So my wife said, that's fine. She was going to take a nap anyways. I thought it was going to be a simple design that wouldn't take too long. So I wasn't too worried about being gone for a long time. Fast forward to the tattoo shop. My entitled sister already picked the design out and the colors and told the artist I wanted the same thing. I tried to talk, but as rough and tumble as the army is, I'm still very timid and a quiet person, and she immediately cuts me off and says, "This is the tattoo we're getting." Not gonna lie, I kinda liked the design, but didn't want to be away from home, as I've been gone all morning. Again, I didn't fight her because she's my big sister, but honest to God, I wish my sister would let me be my own person. So after we get our tattoos, we get to my apartment, and I lay down and cuddled with my wife for a whole 10 minutes before my sister knocked on our bedroom door. She says, "Hurry up, I want to go to the beach." I told her, I'm sorry, but I told you I needed a nap. My sister says, "Well, you only have 1 hour, so you better be ready." Now, my wife is a softie, but not when it comes to me. I've never seen my wife so angry before. I thought I was gonna have to restrain her from hitting my sister, but to my surprise, she spoke in a calm manner. She said, "You're not at home. You're visiting us in our home. Your brother worked 24 hours and only got 4 hours of sleep before we had to pick you up from the airport. You can gladly go to the living room and watch TV. He is exhausted and doesn't want to wreck his car because of you dragging him around like a dog when you're the one visiting." Dumbfounded, all my sister could say was, "All right." Skip ahead to a few hours later, after a well-earned nap, and I'm discussing with my wife what to do next because I'm a homebody and I'm not really sure. And honestly, so is she. And between the two of us, we got into a small argument. It wasn't a loud argument by any means, but enough to alert my roommates because they went over, knocked on our door, and told us that my sister had left the apartment without letting anybody know. I run down the stairs because our elevators are slow and ended up running a 4-mile radius looking for her. When I found her walking on the sidewalk by a hospital, she was crying. My sister said, "I don't want to be the reason you and your wife argue. I don't feel welcome here." I said, "You're in an unfamiliar place and me and you have been out all day and we have done so much and have one more surprise for you. It's gonna be okay." Anyways, so I talked her into coming back into the building, but she refused to go into our apartment. Now, I am a genuinely calm and collected person, but I was about to lose my mind. I ended up running back up the stairs to get my wife to have her convince my sister to come back upstairs into the apartment. So she's finally back in the apartment, and 30 minutes later, everyone's getting ready to go and have a good night together. And lo and behold, my entitled sister is once again on the porch trying to guilt trip me, all because she claims that she's having a horrible time and she didn't get to do anything she wanted to do, despite us literally doing everything that she wanted to do. She was even reluctant to go out to the bar with us, so I ended up having just to tell her where we were going just so she could get up, get dressed, and get ready. So we get to the bar and everyone is having a good time except her. Surprise, surprise. She kept sending the same drink back multiple times, and I could tell the waitress was really tired of her. Ultimately, she had an overall terrible experience, got upset, and basically left it to us to pay for her drinks. She told my wife something along the lines of, "Since I'm a guest of yours, I shouldn't have to pay for my drinks." And to add insult to injury, while we were at the bar, our car ended up getting towed. My wife wasn't sure where to put it, so we basically lost our car. As a result of us not having our car, my entitled sister just took an Uber to the airport and took an early flight to go home. We even offered to get the car and still take her to the airport if she really wanted to leave now. After that whole fiasco, I haven't heard from my entitled sister in a very long time. That is until roughly 4 days ago. It was silly of me, but I asked for marriage advice on Facebook. I was expressing my feelings towards multiple things going on in my life, and I just needed to vent. Not only did my entitled sister blast my business on social media, she then proceeds to say a lot of rotten things about my wife and me, and ends up threatening my wife along with her baby sister-in-law and a few of my family from my wife's side. As a result of that, I ended up blocking her, and I explained the reason I was blocking her was because of the terrible things she said. My wife ended up following suit, and I was honestly hoping that would be the last thing I would hear from my sister, but we don't get off that easy because my sister still wasn't done. Fast forward to today, and guess what? I have staff duty again. I get a text from my brother-in-law asking if I can talk to him on the phone. I agreed, and I was greeted by none other than my entitled sister. She says, "I'm sorry for calling your wife all those nasty things online, and I didn't threaten anyone or say anything in those screenshots." Yeah, I screenshot everything she said and sent it to my wife, and yes, she did. "You came to me with your silly little issues, and now you have to apologize for ruining my trip and for not taking me to the airport and the emotional stress that has caused my family." And at that point, I cut her off and told her to call when she was ready for a real apology. This lady is crazy, and this guy in this story in and his wife have way more patience than I would have. To think that a family member would probably travel overseas to see you on your military base after having a busy schedule and then to act like this is absolutely insane to me. When you're at someone's house, you are their guest and you are beholden to their rules. And if you can't act right, then you probably shouldn't show up at all. An entitled mother's demon spawn of a child gets beaten up over hurting an animal. This happened many years ago when I was 11 or 12. Back then, I had a whole gang of friends in the neighborhood. Not a literal gang, just an active group of friends. We would all play outside whenever we could. Most of the members were slightly younger than me, but the younger sister of one of my friends was also present, which we were fine with, and we all considered her a younger sister, as we had all been playing together outside for most of our lives. This younger sister also had a cat. There was also a child about the same age as me who we used to play with, but didn't anymore, as he was very short-tempered in general. He started fights a lot, and he threatened us with his air rifle, and had a really big jerk of a mother who would always stick up for him. He still lived in the same neighborhood as us as well, and also knew what time we would go outside to play. Everything started off when my entire group of friends and I decided to go to a nearby park, which was about a 10-minute walk away. We were aware of the fact that the entitled brat who had anger management problems was also there with his mother, but we just resolved to keep our distance and not let him provoke us. When we were almost at the park, we could hear a faint bang sound, but thought nothing of it. We had just climbed up the steps to the park, and we saw something that would absolutely horrify all of us. The entitled brat had my friend's younger sister's cat in its kennel. He had set it down about 20 feet away from him. He was taking pot shots at the kennel with his air rifle. And what was the mother doing, you ask? She was sitting about 40 feet away, in full view of us, on her phone, not even raising her head. Given the title, I think what happens next is pretty self-explanatory. Before I get to it though, I want to clarify that this entitled brat was relatively big for his age, and weighed, I would guess, about 100 pounds or so. However, I studied judo, which is a martial art, and had a blue belt, so I knew I could take him on. I immediately rushed him and didn't want to try and fight him while he had his air rifle, so I disarmed him and threw the rifle to the side. I then threw him down. He, being the entitled brat that he was, started screaming for his mother while I had him in one of the least dangerous holds in judo. The mother, unsurprisingly, sprang towards me and started screaming like crazy. I pulled the entitled brat to his feet and he said, Okay, please stop, I give up," hoping to explain to the entitled mother that he was shooting a poor cat, but he instead immediately attacked me again. This time I wasn't having any of his garbage. I punched him repeatedly, and after he kicked me back and reached for the air rifle, which my friend was holding, I held him in a chokehold without actually choking him, and put my knee into his back, which is a hold that is almost impossible to escape from. Mind you, this whole time the entitled mother was screaming that I was just hurting him, and that she was going to call the cops because I had taken her child's air rifle and was trying to use it against him and the cat, which is ironic to say the least. And even despite this, she was never willing to step in and help her precious darling. I asked her what evidence she would have against me, and she replied with well, I know people at the police department, okay? To be honest, at this point, I was getting scared. Remember, I was only a kid. I let the kid up, but still didn't give back the air rifle. I still found the courage to ask her how she was ever going to beat my evidence about her son doing terrible things to that cat, as all my friends could provide proof. It was at this point that she messed up. She slapped me. I obviously didn't attack her back, but instead we did the slightly cowardly thing, but now what seems like the right thing. We all just grabbed the cat and started running back to my house. However, we didn't even get out of the park, as a couple of my friends had to run back to my house already and tell my parents. They showed up right away, and after a 15-minute argument, which ended in my parents storming off to the car, taking lots of photos of my cheek, dropping me off at my house after showing me where the first aid kit was, and presumably going to press charges. The best thing about her slapping me, by the way, was guess what? Proof. We had proof. The slap didn't hurt that much, but she had broken the skin on my cheek and scratched it with her long nails, and there was a ton of blood. To cut an already long story short, she was taken to the police and my parents filed charges. And now, the moment you've all been waiting for. The cat was okay. She had been hit with a pellet, but she survived. And as she was taken to the animal hospital right away, she didn't need to have any surgeries or any serious procedures. She did pass away a year ago, unfortunately, but she was happy all the way up until she passed away. It's crazy that the parent didn't do anything to stop their kid from taking shots at this cat. I mean, I can't imagine any parent realistically letting that happen. I'm kind of sad that the entitled brat got off easy, but I'm so happy that the entitled mom who attacked this kid got exactly what she deserved. I'm unsure if I should make a move on my new crush, who might have a crush on me too. I've known this guy for about a month, and we started talking about a week and a half ago. During class, we were hitting it off immediately. We're both creatives, and as we were leaving, we promised that we'd send our Instagram accounts to each other. He sent me his a few hours later, and we started chatting. We texted the entire evening the day after, and we made plans to go study together 3 to 4 days later. In the meanwhile, we barely talked, but when we saw each other the next day, it was both a very natural dynamic, and it was filled with romantic tension. We had lunch together, went deep into our conversations, went to the park afterward, and sat really close to each other, gazing into each other's eyes very intensely. A few hours after, he suggested we go to the movie theater, which we did. Then we walked about 2 to 3 hours just chatting. We didn't see each other the next day, but got back together almost immediately. This time, it wasn't really flirty, and our conversations were a little less fluid. I was a bit tired, but we still had nice discussions. Then we saw each other 2 days later, aka yesterday, and we had a really nice conversation. We took the same train and I sat against him. We laughed at each other's jokes and shared childhood anecdotes. I'm very into him. I feel good when I'm with him, and there's this little awkwardness. I've had a number of men flirt with me and ask for my number this past year, but I'm rarely interested. I just don't feel it. This time, my intuition is telling me there's romantic potential. But still, even with this in my mind, I'm afraid I'm more into him than he is into me. Although he's initiated contact, his texts are a little dry, and he hasn't given me a lot of compliments, while I've complimented him a lot. I've also been more touchy-feely with him when he hasn't really reciprocated. I feel like he was obviously into me the first day we hung out, but it turned more platonic the following days. As we're both grown-ups and our teenage romance ambiguity days are hopefully past us, I wanted to text him something along the lines of, "If you want to grab a drink sometime this week after a study session, I'm down. No big deal if you'd rather just work though." But my friends have been telling me it's too soon, it's tactless, and I should just wait and see whether he's really into me, or let him make the first move. However, we're both single, we're interested in a relationship, and I'm not sure a week and a half or 2 weeks is that quick in the dating world. I also feel like romance has been the elephant in the room the 4 times we've seen each other, and it might be good for the both of us to address it, even if it entails rejection. What do you think? Should I try talking to him or trying to hang out with him more? Should I just be going for it? What do I do? I say you just go for it. There's no reason you should sit idly by and let this pass up. You clearly have a thing for this guy, just go for it. Maybe the guy's just too nervous to make the first move. You're never gonna know unless you say something, and it's better to just go for it and find out than to not say anything and then regret it later. And honestly, there's no such thing as like too soon or too direct. This is your life right now. Live it honestly and unapologetically. Just go for it, see what happens. You might be surprised. He might be interested in you as well. My ex-girlfriend's mother has been bribing my 2.5-year-old daughter with toys to say that I hit her. I live in the United States and have a 2.5-year-old girl with my ex-girlfriend. Recently, she started cheating on me, and when I found out, she broke up with me. Despite the situation, we're both determined to have an amicable relationship, especially me, because of my parents' rough divorce and how it really only hurt my sister and I. I've been trying to handle getting cheated on without being a huge baby, with occasional success, and we've been steadily building communication between us. The complicating factor is my ex's mother, who has always hated me and has been trying to bribe my daughter to say things like, "Daddy hurt me" and "Daddy slapped me." The first time it happened, my ex's mother texted my ex saying basically that my daughter said that Daddy hurt me while she was babysitting her. When my ex returned home, our daughter would not repeat the phrase and acted strange. The next night, she stayed with me, and as I was changing her diaper, she said to me, "Daddy hurt me." I said, "Did Daddy actually hurt you?" And she said, "No." And then I asked her, "Did someone ask you to say Daddy hurt you?" And she nodded twice and says, "Yes, nanny, toys. 2 toys. My jaw hit the floor. I suspected she had tried to make our daughter say that, but I never expected her to try and bribe my daughter to say it. So I tell my ex exactly what's going on, and she agrees that this is a big deal and that she'll talk to her mom. Her mom pulls the same thing again 2 days ago, this time trying to get my daughter to say Daddy slapped me. Once again, she wouldn't say it, and when I asked her about it, she immediately said that Nanny had asked her to say it in exchange for toys. My ex says she's taking taking this seriously, but her mother is a domineering narcissist, and I feel like she won't stand a chance against her mother's defensive response and powers of deflection. My question is, do I need a lawyer like yesterday, as one of my friends put it? What should I do? This is an insane story, but to answer the guy's question, yes, you need a lawyer like right now. This is not normal behavior. I would also personally take the daughter to the doctor and make sure they're not hurt or something. Like, what is wrong with this ex-girlfriend's mother? You don't do that to somebody's kid. When it comes to somebody else's kid, you don't mess with them. You listen to the parents. And the fact that she was trying to bribe the kid into saying terrible things just to supposedly, I don't know, make the guy lose custody of his child is absolutely crazy to me. There's something wrong with that mother. I hope they're able to find some kind of resolution to this and that a lawyer gets involved and puts this mother in their place. I can also say that it's really nice to see that this man and his ex are working together to protect their daughter and that neither of them are taking the side of the mom, because this is not normal behavior and she has no business being around that kid. My girlfriend admitted that she likes another guy after I checked her phone and found out. Okay, so this is how it happened. It's something hard for me to try and comprehend that my girlfriend of 10 months, and also after living together for 3 months, is interested and infatuated with another guy at her workplace. And I found out mistakenly when I saw her phone and saw a chat on Instagram from a guy with just a text that said, "Are you awake?" And this notification was muted. As well were things that started to make more sense as I dug deeper. I found out that she was Googling things like how to impress your crush and stuff like that. And the convincing point was the fact that I was able to see her deleted screenshots of his Instagram profile, sharing his pictures with her best friends. So I confronted her on this, and firstly, she was very hesitant and wasn't able to come up with a proper explanation. But as I showed her more and more of what I had seen and all that I already knew, she agreed to the fact that she likes this guy and had only recently started talking to him. She tells me she feels the same way about me and still loves me, but at this moment, if I ask her to stop talking to this person, she can't do that and needs more time to communicate and find out more about this person so that she can make a more informed decision on what she wants, as she says she doesn't know what she wants to do at this point. I gave her an ultimatum of it's either him or me, and she told me she needs more time, at least till tomorrow, to think about it. I just don't understand how to go around this, and I never expected something like this. We've lived together for 3 months. I honestly just need some advice on how I should proceed, because I still do love her, and it hurts to say that I was thinking of my future with her in mind. What do I do? I mean, if she really needs to think about it, I think that's your answer. You are obviously not a priority in her life, so why should you bother trying to force your way in? It is honestly not him. No matter what she says tomorrow, it's not about him. It's really kind of disturbing. And if I was in his shoes, I would almost want her to pick the other guy. It's rough because you've known them for 10 months and you've lived together for 3 of those months, but she's clearly not ready for a real relationship, and it doesn't sound like she wants him at all. I would honestly even be hesitant if she did end up picking this guy, because who's to say she won't turn around and do this again? When you subscribe, make sure to hit the bell to turn on notifications. To finish listening to all the stories, check out the playlist at the top of the description. And if you like Am I the Jerk, make sure to subscribe to Am I the Genius. Everything will be linked down below in the description.